Doom 2016 is an absolutely brutal game when playing on Nightmare. Even basic enemies like imps do ridiculous amounts of damage, but for some that just isn't hard enough. And for us there is ultranightmare, a difficulty that makes you have to reset the entire campaign if you take even a single death from anything. But with Doom the Dark Ages around the corner, I imagine many people are trying to catch up on their ultranightmare clears for both Eternal and 2016 so that they can have the whole modern saga done. So let's look at some tricks to beat Doom 2016 on ultranightmare. So this first fight is a pretty simple one, but it is kind of difficult to execute if you're not used to Nightmare as a difficulty. So if it is your first time or you're new to running Nightmare, I would highly recommend running the route that I'm showing you guys in regular Nightmare and getting familiar with it. So that way you know things like the enemy spawns and where to pick things up more fluidly, and it ends up just being a much smoother run. But getting into this fight, there's two enemy types here that matter. It's the imps and the soldiers. Both of these are pretty scary as fodder enemies, especially since all we have to deal with them is the shotgun, and the shotgun really is not a great weapon. That said, it does have a little more range than you might expect from a video game shotgun, so do bear that in mind when you're shooting at them, that even from pretty far distance you can still 3 or 4 shot the enemies, which isn't too bad all things considered. Whenever you have isolated enemies and you're missing health, you can always go for a glory kill. You'll always get 5 health even if you have high health, but if you get a glory kill while you're low health, you'll get a lot more health. But you do want to be careful of doing that, because if you glory kill an enemy and you allow yourself to get surrounded by enemies that are nearby, they can very easily camp you out of the glory kill animation. Another thing to be watching out for is the big ball attack from the soldiers. It's pretty hard to dodge, and even if you are able to dodge it, they will actually stop next to you and have a giant splash area. So even if you do dodge the shot, you want to just keep getting away from it. In general, unless you have a way to immediately kill or stagger the soldier, I would recommend just running away whenever they do that attack and finding cover, and being really far from wherever they end up shooting it. But with these last few enemies taken down, that's going to be the fight, and with that we're ready to move on. But before we do, I do want to show anybody interested that you can actually do a rail boost to skip this fight if you want to. It mostly just helps as a way of grinding the early game faster. Basically, you come up here and you kind of just mess around on the rail and it will launch you forward and upwards. The consistent way that I was able to get it is by running into the rail, backing up a little bit, and then jumping and then holding forward, and I would get the rail boost pretty much every time. Then we can grab the card and move on to the next combat area. I'm going to be cutting pretty frequently just to make the length of this video shorter. There's kind of an expectation that you already know the basics of the game, so I'm not going to be covering every little thing. However, I did want to point out that in this area you can actually run past most of those zombies, but I kind of got hung up on them and went for a glory kill to recover. Make sure you grab the Predator Suit Point though, as we are going to be grabbing all of the upgrades in the earlier levels, because we want to make ourselves as powerful as possible, as fast as possible. And this really is because the early game of the game is a lot harder than the late game. So we do have a couple of special tricks that help in the early game. And we'll go ahead and show off the first one after grabbing the explosive shot here. This is a combat tech called Jimmy Shotting. Basically all you have to do is charge up the grenade, and if you do a melee and then fire while the melee animation is happening and hold the fire button, it will shoot without using up the recharge on the explosive shot, so you can fire it indefinitely or just do a quick double shot like I showed there. It's very helpful in the early game, but it ends up not really mattering in the late game because we don't use this gun anymore. But now we're going to head towards the lever to open up the secret mission area, and fortunately the spot that the lever is in is actually a god spot for these imps for whatever reason. You should be careful if they do throw projectiles at you, as they can hit you sometimes, but they don't tend to do that very often. It is worth noting that you can't shoot explosive shots through the holes in the gate though, and you will just kill yourself if you do an explosive shot in here, which is why I'm not doing that. But you can pick off all the imps from the safety of the cage here, or you can just take them out like normal because it's just a handful of imps. Then you can go and pull the lever and open up the door to get the secret. And you can clear the enemies in there, and there's actually a full armor pickup if you decide to do that. All you have to do is press the button on the inside on the right pillar, and it'll open up a little compartment with the armor. But I find myself just getting hit by those guys and losing out on any benefit I would have gotten, so I just go ahead and pick up the secret and get out of there, because that's all you're actually required to do to get the secret weapon points. So now we're going to cut to the next combat part. So on approach here, I use a Jimmy Shot explosive round to take out these zombies here, and then I'm going to go for an explosive shot on the guy up top. I tried to Jimmy Shot again, but it's a little bit hard to aim because the melee flinches your reticle a little bit, but it's not the end of the world. We can also make use of our frag grenade on any clump we find and take them out like that. And you can see between the barrel, the grenade, and the explosive shots, I got most of the guys into glory kill range. The name of the game in Doom really is all about movement. You can see that I'm constantly moving, and anytime somebody starts shooting at me, I want to change directions. The AI in this game have very good tracking for leading their shots to hit you while you're moving, so you want to change directions anytime something takes a shot at you. Now we're coming up into this narrow cave area. We have a secret to grab, and then we're going to do a little bit of a skip here. You have to grab the secret, but you don't need to grab the dolls, so we can just head out like that. I'm throwing a grenade to just clear everything out that I can, and getting rid of any imps in my way before heading towards the parkour spot here on the left. We're going to do a jump, which is going to allow us to skip the spawn trigger for the last round of enemies and let us run straight to the end of the level. All you have to do is jump here and then across, and make sure you keep jumping constantly until you get pretty deep into the bridge here, or else you will spawn the enemies. Once you get good at doing this level, it'll only take you 3 or 4 minutes to get through the level, so I'd recommend just practicing that jump a few times until you can get it somewhat consistently, and then you'll have a very fast way to get through the first level when grinding Ultra Nightmare, since obviously the first level is the one you'll play the most. Anyway, that's the mission, we got all the secrets, we can move on to the next one. So now we're on to Res Ops, and this one is going to have another interesting skip that you guys can do. But at the beginning, we're just going to go the intended way. If you run to this spot to the right, you can spawn kill this imp, and then run to this spot and spawn kill the other imp, and now you're alone in the room with the zombies, and you can start going for the mission challenges. In this one, we want to hit 5 different glory kills on the zombies, and get a double kill using the shotgun. So I'll just start off going for various different glory kills on these guys before we head into the next room. In this area, we're given 4 zombies to work with, so we can get both of these challenges done just by getting the last glory kill here. And then you could stun one of these guys so that the other one behind him can catch up, and you can get a nice easy double shot. Early on, we're going for all the challenges because they're easy, and also we really want the weapon points, but in the later levels, we'll be pretty much ignoring them. So for now, we can press the plot button, pretty sure that Olivia believes in honesty. And with that out of the way, we can grab the next secret, which is going to be up here after you turn around from pressing the MacGuffin. I wonder how that guy died. There's a helmet there, which means that somebody killed themselves there. Very weird. Anyway, we can go ahead and move on now. We have a button to press, and then we'll move on to the next part. Down here, you're given a bunch more zombies. If you messed up the challenges at all, you can clean them up here. It's no big deal. And once we move up, we're going to start having some imps spawn around where we can do the secret. Since we have the explosive shot, we now have some decent range on our shotgun, or you could just time a frag grenade to them. Either way, you'll take him out, and once you start approaching, one will spawn up top, and another one will spawn down below. Make sure you don't get caught in a position where you're pulling the lever in the animation while the imp is shooting at you, or else you will be killed. So to be safe, you can kill him first, or if you know that he's not taking a good path to you, you could just pull it and wait. So now with the lever pulled, we can go into the secret area, and there are a couple of health and armor pickups inside the secret level here, so if you do need those, you can go in there. Just bear in mind there's 2 soldiers, but they're pretty easy to take out if you just throw a frag grenade on them. So now we can go ahead and move on to the next fight. There is a little bit of walking and easy combat first, so I thought I'd tell you guys about the sort of ethics behind this because Doom is a very buggy game and there are a ton of exploits that make it a lot easier, but some are more ethical than others, and I think that you'll see that my rule set does make use of some of them, but it's also a somewhat ethical setup. For now though, we're starting off by just spamming our explosives, which are the most powerful tool we have. It's also worth noting at this point that I didn't use my Praetor suit upgrade, but you could absolutely spend that on the one that gives you barrel resistance. It's super helpful because there's barrels all over the place in the early game, and it's very easy to just accidentally blow yourself up. I typically go for the barrel and the self-damage reduction as my first upgrades for Ultra Nightmare, just because it's very helpful in not accidentally killing yourself, because explosives are pretty much the meta for getting through stuff quickly. So you can see as we're killing enemies, more are spawning in, and that's going to keep happening throughout the fight, so you need to just be watching out for them. In general, the other side of the arena has a bunch of smoke that it's hard to see through, so I recommend staying away from that spot. That's also where the majority of the enemies spawn from, so it's a pretty dangerous area. In general, you can go back and forth jumping the gap here to stay far away from them, but you want to make sure you're making good use of your space to keep your movement good. Overall though, this fight isn't too bad, and once it's done, I'll show you guys a little quick way to grab the armor instead of having to press the button. Basically, you can just hop up on the wall here, and then you're going to be able to hop around to this spot. I messed up the jump, but you kind of have to hop around and then turn left, and you can get on there. Doing this doesn't give a secret or anything, it just skips having to press a button, and you get some armor for it, so I like to do it. Here we get the chainsaw, which we'll make pretty good use of mostly in the early game, and we're put right into our first fight, and you want to watch out for that zombie because he could sneak up on you. After that, if you can headshot this guy with the pistol, you can quickly take out a bunch of the imps and soldiers who are sitting in the back, but there are still more than that, so watch out for them. But once again, since we only have one weapon, there isn't really much to it. You're just going to be spamming the explosive shot and throwing grenades as you see necessary. You can also make use of the pistol occasionally if you need to. For example, if you get an enemy into a glory kill state from far away, and the shotgun isn't going to be able to kill them, a pistol headshot generally will in the early game here. Other than that though, the pistol doesn't really do enough damage to be used for any actual gameplay, because you'd have to just sit there for ages shooting things. Another thing I'd recommend is learning where all the health and armor pickups are, at least in the early game, like the one there that you normally wouldn't end up finding unless you knew about it. From there, we're going to take this secret path up to move on to the next part of the mission, and after we clear this room, we'll actually do the first main skip. And it is actually a very nice skip because this next arena is very brutal. It's the last arena of the game where you're given only the shotgun as a real weapon, and after that you're given both the plasma rifle and the assault rifle. So to do it, all we're going to do is go through the door like normal, and we'll take out the zombie before he can hit us. Then we just have a little bit of a parkour jump to hit. At first I was just doing this with scroll jumping because that actually lets you jump a little bit higher, but I realized that obviously not everybody can do that, so I went and found a setup that works without needing to scroll jump as well. There is a little spot you can land on next to the invisible platform I'm landing on that'll let you get up here, and then from here you can make this jump without scroll jumping anyway. I actually make use of that setup in the next time I do this skip because you have to do this skip twice to do the level. And we're going to be back there pretty soon, so if you are struggling with getting it and you're on controller or something like that, you could skip ahead a few seconds and watch that setup so that you can do it, or you could try to figure it out yourself since it's not too hard. Anyway, with that combat section skipped, we can get the yellow key card, and now we can start doing all of the secrets in the indoor section of this mission, which is where we get a lot of things that make us more powerful, like the Praetor suit points and some additional weapons. First things first, we can grab the heavy cannon in here, which is very nice just because we now have a weapon with actual range and damage. But we'll also be getting another weapon very soon. I also chose not to get that armor so I could take it on the way out, but I forgot to pick it up on my way out, so it didn't end up being very useful for me anyway. Regardless, what you want to do is come back to this room that is normally locked by the yellow key card, and there will be a button in here you can press to unlock these secret areas. Once you press that, there's going to be a hatch that opens on the way to the fight that we skipped, so we'll go through that hatch and go into a little tunnel area. Down here you have a couple of imps and zombies, so try not to get hit by them. Since you don't have a lot of room to move, you have to make good use of the cover against the imps, but there's not too many of them, so it isn't very difficult. You'll have a Praetor suit point down here, and then you'll want to make your way over to the plasma rifle room, which has a little hatch with some blood on it for you to find it. And the plasma rifle is a very important weapon in this run. We will be using it throughout the entire thing. But with that done, we can now take the secret exit, which actually puts us back into the room that we skipped. So from here, you can either do the fight now that you have extra weapons if you're confident in that, or you can just perform the skip again because this combat encounter is absolutely not required to finish the mission. Also, for whatever reason, in the middle of failing this jump repeatedly, I decided now was the time I should get the hazard protection upgrade, so I went ahead and grabbed it. I would recommend grabbing it earlier than I did, I just forgot to. But here is the setup for doing the jump. Basically, you land on that little yellow pole thing, then you jump in this corner, and from there you're able to hop up into the edge here. And all this was done without doing scroll jumping, so it was completely controller doable. Now that we're back at the mod bot, we're going to be grabbing Stun Bomb as it is the much safer option. While Heat Blast is very strong, especially in the early game, the Stun Bomb lasts throughout the entire game, and it is a very safe option and helps you to keep your distance. From there, we're going to run through the room on the right for a secret, and then dip into this vent for yet another secret and a Praetor suit point. And once you grab the Praetor suit point out of this room and you have the secret, we can go ahead and move on to the next part, which is the outdoor section. So this area can be pretty scary if you don't have a plan going into it. I recommend going back and forth between the plasma rifle and the heavy cannon on the enemies so that you can stay far away, and then occasionally using the shotgun for explosive shots. On the first half of this fight, I would recommend just keeping your distance and picking off the enemies. Once you create yourself a safe bubble though, you can rush towards the Berserk power up you can see back there, and we'll use that to rush to the end of this part. Since the combat still isn't being tracked in this mission, there is no need to do combat that you're not required to do, so if it's safer to run past enemies, we're going to do that. In this case, I believe I just kill everything to show you guys how many enemies there are, but I highly recommend just running past everything that you can, killing anything that gets in your way like this shield guy tends to because he has a shotgun, and then climbing your way up here and going towards the objective. Make sure you are grabbing the secret, which is the little doll guy that you can get by jumping up on the box that I just went past, but once you do that, you can grab the doll and jump down the hatch, and you'll see me do that eventually in the video, but just look at all the enemies that you can run past and not have to deal with by just leaving them. You can see I even ran out of Berserk and just gave up on trying to kill them all because there is a ton of enemies in any room that the game expects you to use a power up on. Anyway, this is the route to grab the doll if you don't know where it is. It's just in the corner back here, and once you have it, you'll turn around and go back towards the hatch, which is basically the alternate entrance into the button that we have to press for the story. Also, fist bump. So yeah, this is just animation, so I'm going to skip it for you guys. So I just finished off that cutscene and I've gotten back outside, and we are going to be hit with a couple of enemies, but it's not too many, so I just take them out using a mix of the weapons we have available. To really be safe in this game overall, you just want to be good at hitting your shots from a distance, having good movement, and making effective use of cover when you can. The other thing is to just be aware of the enemies that are around you and try to keep track of where they're all at. After taking out that imp when he spawns, we have a little bit of walking to do before we have a door that opens up into a room full of soldiers, including a shield guy. I recommend just shooting a stun bomb and tossing a grenade in there, and if you hit them right, you'll kill everything. Although in my case, I screwed this up about as bad as you possibly could, and ended up letting the shield guy get close to me, which probably should have gotten me killed, but he was kind enough to not shoot me. Remember, the stun bomb is able to get them even through the shield. It will stun them and bring their shield down, so it's a great choice for taking them out. After we do that, we can move up into this room, which has a bunch of zombies and an imp or two. Once again, do whatever you see fit, make use of the stun bomb on any enemies you're worried about, and then clean up with the explosive shot or the heavy cannon. Remember, the plasma rifle does really good damage, but it has a bit of a range cap just by being a projectile weapon, whereas the heavy cannon does slightly less damage, but it is hit scan, so it will always hit the shots wherever you're aiming it at. In this room, you want to be careful of the soldier in the back, as he will just sit there constantly shooting whether he sees you or not. Once you take him out, it's pretty safe to push into the room. You can see there, I got hit by the big ball attack and just backed way off until he stopped doing it. But once he's done, we can finish off the room. You just have the shield guy in the corner here to be aware of. I just throw a grenade in there, but I don't get him, so I end up finishing him off using my other weapons. And after we're able to take him out, we have a hidden Praetor suit point over here through this door, as well as an ammo box. So it's okay if you used up all your ammo in the previous parts, as you'll be able to refill it in this room. Just grab the Praetor suit point and then get the ammo box to the side. And on the topic of ammo, let's go ahead and talk about our plans for the upgrades. By that I mean the Argent upgrades. We are going to be grabbing every single Argent upgrade, because they are probably the most important upgrade in the game. Being able to get more health and armor is an extremely powerful tool. In the early game, we're going to be picking up health just because health is so important, but if you are feeling brave enough, you can definitely take ammo as the first or the second upgrade, and it will definitely help you out. Running out of ammo is obviously not a good thing, as if you run out of damage, you aren't able to kill things that are attacking you, and that leads you to take more damage. But on the other hand, health is very good just because it lets you take more damage. Either way, I recommend making your very first upgrade health no matter what. So that's what I'm going to do here after grabbing the final secret of the level. And I'm going to skip the 3-minute cutscene for you guys using editing. So this is pretty much the end of the level, and we'll be ready to move on to the next one. So here's me grabbing the health upgrade with really bad FPS for whatever reason, only on this area. Next mission. So this is Foundry, and it is a very important mission in the early game because we will unlock the rocket launcher, which is one of the best weapons that we'll be using throughout the entire run. And this is a pretty open level. There's a bunch of ways you can run it, and I think I've created probably the safest route to get all of the powerful items you can before doing all of the combat. First thing I'm doing here is gathering up the zombies to blow them all up with a barrel to complete one of the mission challenges. You can go for this line up here. You don't have to kick the barrel if you don't want to. It's whatever you want to do, but make sure you get enough of them near the barrel and blow it up. You can also go for a glory kill on the soldier if you want to, but there's a bunch of glory kills to be gotten, and I find it a bit of a scary one because you end up surrounded by zombies. After that, we're going to hop down here and go into the secret area. I like to toss a grenade into that group just because it pretty much gets rid of everything, but there is some ammo down there if you need it. Then you can just follow the path I take to get straight to the rocket launcher. So this room is a secret. Make sure you grab the rocket launcher off the table, and immediately we are going to head right back up top to where we came from so that we can get the mod bot for the rocket, and we are going to be taking remote detonation. So I'll let this play out so that you see where I'm going, but if you already know where the mod bot is, then you can just skip to when I get it. So with this mod bot, we're going to be picking up remote detonation. A lot of the more casual players tend to take the lock-on burst, but honestly it's a much weaker mod than the remote det. The main reason for that is because the lock-on burst actually reduces the damage per rocket whenever you're using it. So it makes the weapon less ammo efficient, which is very important in the early game where we're lacking ammo. But on top of that, the mastery for the remote det also doubles its DPS, which makes it even better in the late game when the ammo effect of the lock-on burst wouldn't matter as much. On top of that, Remote Det is also really good at clearing out mobs, and it ends up being our main mob clearing weapon later in the run. For now, the ammo is a little bit scarce though, so we're still using some of our other options, but if we had infinite ammo, we'd pretty much just be spamming the rocket already. This is why we've been saving up weapon points, because we want to start mastering the rocket as soon as possible, since both the upgrades are very strong and the mastery as well. In this room, you can take out the couple of fodder demons and then be left with the 2 soldiers here, and you can use the setup I did here to get the death from above glory kills on them. I like to stun them both before going for one of the kills, otherwise you'll get shot by the other while you're getting the other. Also, if you mess these up, there's no big deal because there's a ton of soldiers in this level, so just get them whenever you have them isolated and you can get them. After we grab the card, we're going to have to deal with a Hell Knight. So the setup I was going for here was to kill that initial imp, and then hit a stun bomb on the Hell Knight and the imp that spawns on the side of him. But I stun bombed a little bit too early and didn't hit the Hell Knight, which allowed him to get a hit on me. But ideally, you would have stunned the Hell Knight and then got the chainsaw off and taken no damage. Here you could see me messing up one of the glory kills, unfortunately. It is a little bit tricky to get the death from aboves without having something to jump off of without the double jump, but regardless, we'll get it later. For now, we can head this way and grab the lever, and this area is also where we're going to be able to get the Argent Cell. We just have to take care of a little fight here. It's pretty easy, especially with good use of your rockets, and since we just chainsawed the Hell Knight, you should have plenty. Ultimately, now that we have a bunch of weapons, it starts being a little bit more open-ended how you want to deal with encounters. So you could see I just fired off rockets at anything that scared me, and then used explosive shot shotgun and heavy cannon shots to clean up everything else from relatively far away. We can get a little bit more aggressive later in the game when we have more health upgrades, but for now we want to be very safe. So with that fight cleared, we can go ahead and pick up the Argent Cell here, and once again we are going to be taking health. That said, if you feel good with your health and you're not getting hit too much, there is a very good argument for grabbing ammo here, because we do have quite a few ammo struggles towards the end of this level and the beginning of the next one. That being said, if you're not sure what you should take health. Just ammo is a legitimate option if you would prefer it. So with the cell taken, we can go ahead and head into the secret level here, and this is a very large one with a bunch of enemies in it, but it also has some nice goodies. On top of that, there are soldiers, and some of them are hard to do glory kills on with low roofs, but some of them are just fine, and like that one, I just messed up on it, but I am able to finally finish the challenge on this one. And with that, I actually just got the 9th weapon point, but I don't realize it right away, and I end up upgrading the rocket launcher a little bit later. For now, I'll just show you guys how I went through the secret level, although it honestly was pretty easy. I do want to point out that the combat rating in this mission is actually a little bit tight, and if you don't do this secret level, as in killing most of the enemies inside of it, you might have trouble with getting full combat rating by the end of the mission. But since this is Ultra Nightmare, you're not going to be despawning any enemies with checkpoints or dying, so if you do want to try to skip it, you can always try to beat the mission and then come back to it later if you really want to. But it's not very hard, and there's plenty of health and ammo pickups, so I'd recommend just clearing it. Anyway, with that out of the way, we can now make use of the yellow keycard since we're on that side of the map, and we'll also be faced by another Hell Knight, this time without a chainsaw. But now that we have the rocket launcher ready to go, we'll have an easy time taking him out. I like to hit a stun bomb so that barrel also blows him up. Then you want to make sure you're nice and far away so you don't get hit by the barrel there that I blew up with the rocket launcher. From there, we just need 2 rockets and the barrel damage to get him killed. And if you are ever going for the glory kill combo on them later, you just need 2 rockets and then some peppering from light weapons, and you'll get a glory kill pretty quickly, or you can immediately kill him with a 3rd rocket. But with him out of the way, we can head into the assembly room now, which is going to have another Hell Knight and a bunch of fodder enemies shooting at us. Fortunately, you can kind of split up the spawns by sitting back here. The Hell Knight won't actually spawn until you push up, so you could take out these soldiers from safety, and then push up to spawn in the Hell Knight before taking him out without having a bunch of other stuff shooting you. If you kill him quickly, you can kill him before the rest of the demons spawn in, and that way it lets you kind of take things as one-on-ones, instead of having to deal with everything at once, which can get stressful. And you'll see here I'm just making good use of Remote Det to fire around cover, and finishing off anything else I need to with the heavy cannon or the explosive shot on the shotgun. So after you go through and pick up all the pickups in the room, don't forget to grab the collectible out of the open box as well, especially because there is also a mission challenge for picking both of these up, so make sure you actually get the doll and not just the secret. Now before we head into the next room, we've got a Praetor Suit point as well as a chainsaw pickup. Make sure you get the chainsaw pickup because we are going to be chainsawing Hell Knights whenever possible here in the early game, just because they are kind of scary shortly after they're introduced, but they gradually get easier the longer you're playing the game. Up here we've got the Praetor Suit point, and at this point in the game we're pretty much just saving up points for the power-up section because the power-up upgrades are very powerful. The first one doesn't really mean much, but the second one giving you full health on a power-up pickup, and the third one making them last longer is extremely helpful, But for now, we've got a fight to take in here, and now that we have remote det, we're ready to take on some of the gore nest fights to progress the mission. This room isn't too hard, you just have a bunch of fodders, and you're introduced to the Hellraisers, who are just tankier soldiers with laser guns. But they really aren't that bad as fodder enemies. The soldiers and imps are much scarier. Once you come up the stairs, you're going to have a Hell Knight spawn, and you can go for a chainsaw on him, or if you already have good ammo, you can just use some rockets to take him out with the stun gun. Either way, that's going to wrap up the fight, and now I have to sit here and wait for the door to open, so I'm going to cut. And now we're ready to grab the blue keycard and move on to the next fights. At this point, while we're still grabbing all of the secrets, we've gotten the main ones we want to actually start progressing the mission, so at this point we're just going through and taking out all the gore nests in the most graceful order. So I'm just following this blue door here, and be careful of the engineers, because if you let them smack you or get close without shooting them away, they'll blow up and do a ton of damage to you. But now we're in this room with another gore nest, so we can go ahead and get that started. This fight is very easy. All you have to do is take out the guys that spawn downstairs, which is just 1 or 2 enemies, and then everybody else is upstairs, and you could take them out with a bunch of indirect damage, like tossing a frag like I did there, and then going up the stairs and using remote det to just tick at them without looking at them very often. It's also worth noting that once you kill off most of the fodder here, you're going to have a Hell Knight spawn, so just make sure you're ready for him with either a stun bomb or a chainsaw. If you have the chainsaw revving while they're still in their spawn animation, it will kill them still, and you actually won't get an animation, which is pretty helpful because it means that you won't be locked and possibly getting surrounded by enemies around you. But with this out of the way, we're ready to move on to the next fight. Like I said, now that we got all of the upgrades that we need for our power, we can kind of just start moving fight to fight and taking on the mission for real. Although I do need to stop and grab the other collectible that I missed by the yellow keycard. You could have gotten this earlier in the level, I just forgot to, so this is when I did it, and this is when I'm mentioning it. So now we're going to head back to the side with the mod bot and do that part of the mission, so I'm just going to cut there because you should know where that is. And this is actually an interesting point in the run for me because I got the randomly spawning Hell Knight in here. This mission has 1 or 2 random Hell Knight spawns that will just show up throughout the level, and you kind of just have to be ready for them at any time. You might not see the ones that I show in this video, and you might get different ones that I didn't see in the video, and that's just because they're random. But with all that taken care of, we can take out this group here, and then we have this room, which we want to be a little bit careful of because there's some soldiers in the corner there, which if you still need glory kills, obviously you can isolate and do glory kills on. But otherwise, we don't need to click the button to look at what happened. We already know we want to go and grab the arm off the dude over here. So we want to hop down and grab the Praetor suit point, and then on the way up there's also a secret with an armor in it. So we'll get both of those and then head up to the arm. And you'll see on the way up, just because we have some extra weapon points, I go ahead and grab one of the upgrades for the stun bomb. I highly recommend grabbing the one that just gives it a better cooldown, and we'll fully upgrade it later once we have some extra weapon points. So now that we have the secret, we just need to grab the hand and then go to the next part. Also, be ready for the imp that spawns across from you, but I don't think I need to tell you about that. It's one guy. We're going to cut to the door. And with the door unlocked, we're ready to do the last fight before going into the final area of the mission. So you can just hop in, grab the gore nest right away, and immediately we want to look to the right side here and kill the dudes who are in our way, because we can kind of sit up here with relative safety, having some high ground, which makes it hard for the enemies to throw stuff at us. Just make sure you're watching your slides and not letting yourself get flanked by enemies, because they are pretty smart and they will do that if you don't pay attention. You also want to watch out for the one Hellraiser spawn up here. Once you take him down, nothing else spawns up here, so it stays a safe spot for the rest of the fight. Although at this point I saw that I was pretty much done, so I just got aggressive and killed the last soldier, who was also yet another opportunity to get a diff from above kill if you needed to get that. So now we have one more big fight to do, and that is going to be the downstairs fight at the bottom of the area here. Be aware that while you're leaving, you'll have this Hellraiser to deal with, and sometimes you'll have one of your random Hell Knights in this spot. I have seen them here before, although I don't know all of the spots where they can be. I believe that my second random Hell Knight actually came up during this fight, which is probably one of the worst places he could appear. But anyways, we can go ahead and just hop down and start clearing things out. This fight mostly just has a bunch of imps and soldiers in it, but it is also a fairly common spot to have one of your random Hell Knights, although I don't believe there is an assigned Hell Knight to this fight specifically. It is helpful that there is a fuel here, so you can grab a triple chainsaw and have it ready in case you need it for a Hell Knight. Although in general, I do recommend holding onto your chainsaws in the early game to be able to chainsaw heavy demons, as it is very helpful because of the lack of firepower we still have. Once you're ready to start the gore nest fight, you want to kill the imp on either side of you, as they are static spawns, and then you want to start trying to group up enemies all you can and blowing them up with splash. Pretty much, you just want to have good movement throughout this entire fight, and you can see right there my random Hell Knight showed up at the worst time possible, but I went ahead and just hit a chainsaw on him for some ammo, and now I have a bunch of rockets to spam at the enemies. And while I was doing the chainsaw, everybody bunched up for me, so I got pretty fortunate with this fight. But if they are giving you a hard time, you can always circle back to where the gore nest was, which is generally a spot that the enemies don't go to unless you're sitting there for too long. And you also have lots of cover to play Ring Around the Rosie with these guys, and since they're not heavy demons, the cover is pretty effective against them. But with that done, we can head back to the big door. We're ready for the final fight. So this fight is a bit of a scary one, and there's kind of two ways to handle it. The first one is sitting out in the open here and just making really good use of your movement, which sounds like a terrible idea in most games, but it's actually pretty effective in Doom because it's not too hard to dodge the enemies once you get familiar with how they shoot at you. The other thing you could try to do is camping up at the exit door towards the top left from where I'm looking. Just be careful that the first Hell Knight spawns up there, so you don't want to start doing that until after you've taken him out. You should also note that the enemies are pretty careful about pushing you while you're up here, and that imps will try to lob shots at you, so you want to be very careful about taking damage, because whenever you're far away from enemies, you don't have easy access to getting health from them while you're low. So you'll see I start off by camping up here a little bit and trying to spawn the next wave of the fight, and kind of just get it under control before pushing in. Another issue with camping up here is obviously that you're going to run out of ammo pretty quickly, and be left with some of your weaker weapons. This fight is split up into two main parts. You've got the first Hell Knight part, which just has the one Hell Knight with the fodders. Then you have this second half that's starting for me, which is going to have two Hell Knights and a lot more fodder, as well as some more Hellraisers. So you can see I'm just carefully picking them off, and eventually once I feel like I have it under control, then I'll start pushing in and taking care of the rest. The double Hell Knight is definitely the scariest part of the fight, because two Hell Knights at once with the level of gear that we have right now is very scary. You'll also see a good example of how the enemies are being kind of careful about pushing me, but once they do push up, they tend to just run in. I'm being super careful here because I am pretty low on health and I'm trying to get some of that back. But you can see that the fodders are kind of just pushing in one at a time, which is very helpful. This is one of the Hell Knights. The other one fortunately spawns on the other side of the map, so I can melt this guy pretty quickly with a stun bomb, then move on to taking out some more of the fodder before hunting down the last Hell Knight. You absolutely have to keep aware of where the Hell Knights are located at all times, because if you let one sneak up on you, they will kill you very quickly. Because as with everything in Nightmare on this game, they do a ridiculous amount of damage to you when you're up close. So I get this guy into a good position and I stun lock and rocket him, and the rocket does very fast damage to them, as you can see. And now with both the Hell Knights down, I just have some more fodder to clean up, and then we're all done. So now I'm going to skip ahead. There is a Praetor Suit point that is very obviously in your path, and then you just have a cutscene to watch. So I'm going to just skip to the end. Make sure you're paying attention after the cutscene ends, because it does spawn some fodders on you, and you can go for a nice rocket mastery tick since there's 3 of them, and that is how you progress its mastery. We're actually going to be finishing off this weapons mastery in the next mission using a little bit of a farming spot. But this is the level done, and we can move on to the next.
We'll have to shut down the Argent Tower manually from the surface.
So we're at the start of Argent Facility now, and there are a couple of interesting things to note about this level. Once again, like the last one, it's a fairly open level and you kind of have some agency in how you want to get the upgrades done. So once again, we're going to prioritize getting powerful quickly, so that way we have all the powerful stuff before doing most of the level. To start with, we're doing a little bit of parkour before getting to the vacuum. However, I think that's pretty much self-explanatory, so I'm just going to show you the secret fuel and armor I got in the background, and then we'll cut to the rune, which is just right in the intended path. So the vacuum rune is very easy, and it's so easy to the point that I'm not even going to show you me doing it, there's no point. But we are going to want to grab vacuum, as it will be useful later in the run, and it's very nice in the early game as literally our only rune anyway. I will show you guys how to do the harder runes, but this one's so easy that there's no point, you just kill the enemies. So we've now finished the vacuum rune, and to the side here from the rune, you can grab a bunch of ammo, which is helpful if you run out towards the end of the last level. And make sure you guys don't be like me and forget to put on your rune. Go into the menu and equip the rune. You do have to do it. It does not automatically equip, even though you don't currently have any. And you'll see here, this is where the lever is located, just so that you guys know where it's at. As once again, we are going to be grabbing all of the secrets in this mission to get as many weapon points as possible. The secret door is up ahead in this room, and we don't have any enemies until we get into the first fight. So you could just pop in here and grab any items you need out of the secret. And then we can proceed into the first fight, which is a little bit of an interesting one because of the mission challenge to get death from above kills on a Hell Knight. We end up playing the first fight a little bit oddly. So you have to kill a bunch of fodder off the start, and I would recommend leading in with a rocket shot, unlike what I did here, so that way you can get another mastery tick, which is very helpful. Then from here, you want to just start making use of your weapons to take down anything you need to. I ended up chainsawing this guy just because I wanted to get some ammo, and I knew I didn't need to chainsaw the Hell Knight since I wanted to glory kill him anyway. So at this point, I'm just clearing more enemies, and I'm watching that fire there because that's where the Hell Knight's going to spawn from, and I want to know when he's on the field. But it's also important to be watching all around you, otherwise you could get killed from places you're not expecting. This is also the point where I remember to equip Vacuum, and you can see I had a pretty close call there that would have been a little bit less close if I did have Vacuum equipped. So at this point, the Hell Knight has spawned. I'm going to hit him with 2 rocket shots, and from there I'm going to start peppering him with the heavy assault rifle, which gets him pretty low, then we can jump up on the box and hit the glory kill. There are a lot of ways that this can go wrong, and it went pretty smoothly for me in this video, but if the Hell Knight does mess with you, you can always just stun bomb him and go kill another one, or just not get the challenge done, as it's not the end of the world at this point. We do have a couple of extra weapon points saved up that we don't need right away, so it is okay to skip out on this one if you're not comfortable with it. At this point you'll see I hop over and grab the ammo box, so that way we have full ammo for the next fight, because it is kind of a scary fight. So before we go and do that, I'm going to go and grab this weapon mod. And on this one, I'm going to be taking the tactical scope for the assault rifle, which is definitely the best choice for this weapon as a combat mod. It increases the damage per shot of the weapon without any cost to the ammo, and it also makes it more accurate and makes it a decent weapon for taking out fodder from far away. We use it a decent bit at this point in the game, but later on in the game we're going to be using it a lot less, but it still has plenty of uses in the mid game and this early game part. So now that we have that, we're ready to go into the next fight. As you can see, I'm just going to start picking things off gradually. And unfortunately, I did let myself get whacked by this imp, so I'm going into this with kind of low health, which is always unfortunate. So I decided to go ahead and clear out any of the remaining enemies, and then go grab any health and armor pickups I can find around the arena before I go and hit the Gore Nest fight, because hitting this Gore Nest fight is what unlocks the rest of the mission so that we can go exploring. So now we're ready to start this Gore Nest, and it is a pretty major fight, having 2 Hell Knights and a ton of fodder spawns. I go for a glory kill on the first Hell Knight here just because he jumps down the ramp, and I am able to get it, but there is another Hell Knight coming pretty soon in the fight later if you're not able to get this one. Pretty much all of the same basics apply during this fight. You would be watching out for enemies all around you, and just keeping as aware as possible about what enemies are going to be showing up next. It really helps to be able to just know what enemies you're going to be expecting. For example, when there's going to be Hell Knights, when there's going to be summoners, that kind of thing. You can see here I do a chainsaw on the Hell Knight just to get him out of the way, and because I don't need any more glory kills. And at this point we're on the falling edge of the fight, and we're able to move on. You'll see I forgot to grab a Praetor suit point in this area, and I come back to get it later. But obviously you can grab it now if you want to. If you're in this area, it should show up on your auto map. But I decided to go into this first area with the first objective we need to hit. Be careful of the enemies in here, just because if you forget about them they can catch you, but they're not too dangerous. So now we can go and smack this thing. So with that out of the way, we can use the health station in here if you need it, or you can leave it if you're already near full health and come back for it later if you end up leaving another fight later that you have a bunch of health missing in. At this point I'm going to be moving towards the Argent cell because that is the next best upgrade we can get. And this room is going to have a few more enemies than the last, but once again, it's not a very difficult room. You can actually get some rocket launcher mastery ticks in here if you set up the shots good, but I'm prioritizing just not getting hit over doing that even. Especially since we have an infinite farm in this room where we can get as many mastery ticks as we want, which I'll be showing you once we get to it. But for now, we can clear out this room and then go and grab the Argent cell, which is just around the corner right here. And once again, if you haven't taken any ammo upgrades, it is totally advisable to grab an ammo upgrade, but if you want to be safe, you can just keep grabbing health, and that's what I'm going to do here, just because there is nothing wrong with grabbing a bunch of health upgrades. That being said, I would not go for a second ammo upgrade if you did already grab one. You pretty much just need the one ammo upgrade until you have your health full. So after you've made your decision, we're going to move on from here. It is worth noting that there is a health station in here if you're missing health and you decide to go for an ammo upgrade, so there might be some value in that for you. Either way, after we hop up here, we can grab the next objective. And hitting this is actually going to trigger a bot to unlock a secret for us, which we'll come back for later, but I really don't feel like sitting here and staring at it, so we'll go do something else instead. What we can do is come outside here and clear out the enemies in this area so that they don't kill us, but we are not going to be popping the Gore Nest yet. While you can pop the Gore Nest now, we actually can get another weapon at a secret, and also get a weapon mastered before this, so that we can have a little bit of an easier time with the fight. So after clearing out all these guys, I go and make a detour to head towards this Praetor suit point, and once I do grab it, then we're going to make our way towards the super shotgun on the map. So you can take the route I'm showing you here to go towards the super shotgun. It's just to the side here. There's a bunch of ways to end up in this part of the map, but going this way is the easiest way to get here directly. That way you don't have to go through any fights to get here. There's an ammo crate here if you need it, and we're also going to walk along this beam on the outside here because there's a secret and collectible in this area. Once we grab it up here, then we'll be able to hop down, and the super shotgun is really close by, so we can just hop down from here and move towards it. There are 3 enemies on it, so you can get another rocket launcher mastery tick if you want to, but like I said, it's not really that big of a deal since we have a farm for it anyways, but you might as well go for it just to save time, right? Whatever you decide to do, we can go ahead and pick up the super shotgun, and immediately we're going to fully upgrade it because it is one of the most powerful weapons in the entire game. And on top of that, it also has a ridiculously strong mastery effect in basically doubling its DPS and halving its ammo cost. So while I'm here, after I upgrade this, I go ahead and grab some Praetor suit upgrades for power-ups. This is helpful because it's now turned my power-ups into full health packs, which can be very helpful in one of the fights that we're going to be doing later. But I am also 1 point away from being able to get the last upgrade that makes them last longer as well. But since I'm 1 point away, I decided to go back and grab the suit point that I forgot about, so this is the route I took to get there just so that you know where it is. But as always, if you already know where it is or you already got it, then you can just skip this part until I move on to the next part. So with our upgrades in hand, and now that we're back at the Gore Nest, this is going to be the farm spot I was talking about. Basically, for whatever reason, you can reset this fight as many times as you want, so you could just kill a bunch of enemies, and since the room is packed full of fodder at the beginning of the fight, it makes it very easy to do so. You just want to be careful because if you progress the fight too far, you'll get a bunch of dangerous fodder spawns, and sometimes they'll shoot you and mess you up. So you just go back to the spot I went there, and you'll respawn the enemies, and you can farm this for as long as you like. For me, I fully upgraded my rocket launcher and then got about half of the ticks on the shotgun. But I'm going to show you guys how to do the Gore Nest now, and then you guys can farm for as long as you want before doing it. You can also do the farm after clearing this Gore Nest if you did already clear it or you just want to. But just for the sake of the video, I'm not going to show you guys me doing the same thing over and over. So this fight is going to contain a Hell Knight, but otherwise it's really not too scary. And now that we have the super shotgun, it's a pretty effective weapon against the Hell Knights. If you get a full blast on them, it generally will stagger them, however that's not 100% consistent. So you want to make sure you're making good use of the stun bomb as well, that way you're not letting them hit you. In my case, you can see I ran out of a bunch of ammo, which was very unfortunate for me, but I was able to get a stun bomb and then spam rockets to take them out. So you can see at this point, it probably would have been a good idea for me to grab an ammo upgrade instead of all these health upgrades. But the game is pretty nice to you whenever you're out of ammo for something. You could just kill an enemy and most of the time you'll get ammo for that weapon back. So with that fight out of the way, I'm now going to head back towards a secret. Remember that secret that we started moving by having that box flying but we didn't want to wait on it? Well, the box has landed and it landed right here, so we can jump up onto this little thing on the ceiling and pick up another collectible. You don't actually have to grab the collectible, you just need the secret, so I decided to do that to save myself 5 seconds of walking. There's also a chainsaw fuel in this room that you can grab at any point in the mission whenever you need it. And in general, it's just good to know where the items spawn on the map, that way you are aware of the resources that you're working with. Now we're going towards the Dazed and Confused rune, and this one is pretty helpful in the run occasionally, so we'll go ahead and pick it up. It's another one that's really easy, all you have to do is shoot some barrels, so once again, I'm not going to show you guys that, you should be able to do that on your own, so we'll cut back to after I've cleared it. So now I want to show you guys a cool little speedrun trick here. This is called the bite and switch. Basically, all you have to do is have your mouse hovering over the top slot of the rune, and then you can use your arrow keys to highlight the rune below it. And whenever you click on the top slot, it will actually allow you to put runes into the locked slots. Unfortunately, this is only available on mouse and keyboard, so if you're not using it, then you can't do this trick, and you'll just have to unlock enough runes to get all the rune slots unlocked. But for my run, I decided not to use it, that way all my controller homies are doing the same run as me. So at this point, I went and refilled my ammo and then continued farming. You could have just been farming the entire time and then done the Gore Nest, but I just did it in this weird order for the video. So this is going to be where I'm moving on from the video at this location if you're trying to keep track of my area. But I'm going to cut back to after I've finished that farming just so that you guys don't have to sit here and watch me do the same thing over and over. So now this is where I actually go and clear the room. I'll show you guys that. Pretty much I just started this off as if I was farming for some double trouble ticks, but once I take out some of the enemies I start doing some other stuff, especially when I run out of ammo, and at this point I'm just looking to clear the room out because I think I have enough mastery ticks farmed up. There isn't really much to say about this room. You just need to bear in mind that because of the stairs, it's a little bit hard to maintain your movement because stairs actually slow you down quite a bit. So I would recommend staying off the stairs while doing combat unless you are jumping over them or down them. Also at this point, we're starting to get pretty frequent rocket ammo, and so I start just using the remote detonation mod on the shield soldiers, which is a good idea because they are very scary with their shotguns and you definitely want to keep your distance. That said, after you clear out this fight, a weapon mod bot will spawn up at the top of this room. So you'll see I'm just going to climb up to the top and grab it. And for this one, I decided to go for micro missiles. However, the only reason I'm actually grabbing that is just so I could waste ammo a little bit better in the next level, where we're going to be unlocking ammo boost, which is a very important rune that we want to master as quickly as possible. So with that out of the way, we're now ready to immediately put the scope back on our gun and then head on to the next fight. So at this point, there should only be one more objective that we need to hit, and I'm going to head directly there. And since you have a diamond on your map, if you're following this route, you can just go towards that. You'll see I do grab the health station in here on the way out to get a bunch of health, and I'm just going to cut there because it's a bunch of boring walking. This room technically has 3 different phases. You have this area which has some enemies spawn in once you approach the gore nest. After that you'll have to do the actual gore nest itself, and then there's a third part after you destroy the objective. This first part's really easy though, it's just a couple of fodder demons, and it's not too hard to take them out, just using whatever means you like. You can make use of the heavy cannon or the rocket launcher, or if you're up close, of course, the super shotgun. Once you feel safe, you can start the fight, and the real enemies start spawning. Right away, we do have a Hell Knight over here that you can take down using a mix of rockets and the super shotgun. And if you're uncomfortable killing them that quickly or getting them stagger locked the way I did, you can make use of the stun bomb as well. Now that I'm over here, it's a pretty safe area where you can stay far away from the enemies and just rocket them down from a distance. This is kind of the beginning of the rocket spam, but it's only going to get more intense after we get into the later levels because it's a super good weapon. So you can see I make use of the stun bomb on that guy just because I was worried he was going to hit me. And now the fight is pretty much cleared out. I just have a zombie left over from before I started the gore nest fight. Although for whatever reason the fight doesn't end, so I just wander around for a while finding nothing, and eventually the door just opens, so I'm going to cut to that. So now you can go in this room, grab any of the loot that you need to, and also hit the objective before we move on to the next thing, which is going to be the secret room in this entire arena here, and it does contain the auto map, so you'll want to pick that up for a mission challenge. But before we can do that, we do need to deal with the last part of this fight, where we are introduced to the summoner. The summoner can be made quite a bit easier by using a stun bomb on them, but if you do let them get away, make sure you're hunting them down, because she is going to spawn in additional demons, which can be pretty annoying. That being said, as far as the priorities go, it's not the end of the world if you're not able to reach her immediately. If you are getting hit by fodder, it's not worth it to ignore them to take her down, because she does only spawn in fodder or lower tier heavies like Hell Knights, which aren't that bad to deal with. And obviously, it's better to not get killed while blindly chasing her than it is to have a chance at killing her quickly but risk dying. Ultimately, it's just a decision you're going to have to make mid-fight, and now at this point we can actually go to that secret that I was talking about, although I kind of forgot and then walked away, but it is in this room, so I'm going to cut back to when I go to it. So now that we're back in here, it's this room with these shutters on it, and then there is a door that you have to force open, and inside is the auto map that you'll want to pull, and also some supplies you can take as well. And now on our way out of here, I realize I'm missing one more Praetor suit point, and after I grab that, we're able to go to the end of the level. There are some enemies here, so make sure you take them out in whatever way you like. I decided to go for a double trouble tick just because I see an opening, but if you want to be safe, you can always use the stun bomb and rocket, or just stun bomb and go for one of those ticks. So at this point, I kind of ran around and forgot where the Praetor suit point I was missing was at, so you kind of see me blindly wandering, and I'm just going to speed up the footage a bit to when I find it. So this is where the last Praetor suit point I was missing is located at, so I'll just clear out the enemies and take it, and then from this point we can just blindly chase the diamond on the map towards the end of the level, which also has the last Praetor suit point, so we don't need to worry about that one. And this fight, despite being at the end of the level, is actually probably the easiest, so we could just take out these guys around the gore nest, and honestly, because we're going to be saving the power up for when we trigger the gore nest, we're going to have a very easy time, because I think they intended you to take longer to go for the summoner, but if you just kill the summoner really quickly, then it ends up not being a problem at all. So we can grab the nest and immediately rush the berserk tower up while everything's spawning, and just kill everyone with instant kills, and it's a pretty easy fight. And yeah, with that out of the way, we can go ahead and grab the last Praetor suit point, and then finish the level. Make sure you aren't like me and almost forget it though. And we're actually going to be able to get an upgrade with this last suit point on the map, and we are actually going to pick up the dexterity mod for swapping our weapons faster. This is super helpful for getting some quick swaps going on, and now that we have the rocket launcher and the super shotgun, we actually have the start of a rotation to do, which is why we held off on getting it for so long. If you do prefer it, then you can grab it earlier on in the run, but this is just when I felt it was the safest time to grab it, and when we really started getting to make full use of it. Anyway, we're ready to go on to the next level now, so I'll see you guys there. Now we're on to Argent Tower, and this is one of the harder missions in the game, but it is also a pretty quick one. That said, if you're able to get through this one and the next mission, then the game becomes quite a bit easier from that point, and you'll see what I mean when we get there. For now, we need to clear out this area to get to the moon boots, and this is also where we are introduced to the Revenant, and you'll see I took him down with some rocket shots there, since he likes to sit still for you in a little animation he does. From there, you'll have more enemies spawn in once you jump down, so you can kill everything before hopping down, or if you're not worried about it like I am, then you can just hop down and YOLO it. This arena can be a little bit scary if you're not paying attention, as the enemies kind of just drop in from all over, and there's not really a good central point to stand in. But now that we have a bunch of more powerful weapons, including the rocket launcher fully mastered, we can kill everything pretty quickly before it can hurt us too much. So we'll grab the moon boots and then go towards the ammo boost rune, which will be on the map, and it's very easy to get to, so I'm just going to cut to it. So this is the ammo boost rune, and this is a very important rune that we're going to be using throughout the rest of the run. Pretty much in the first half of the game, which we're still kind of in, the ammo boost rune makes it much easier to maintain your ammo off of just getting pickups, so that way you no longer need to use the chainsaw for ammo, which can be a little bit scary being a close range weapon. But once we get into the later half of the game, and we are able to master the rune, it actually starts dropping BFG ammo for us randomly, which is obviously an insanely powerful thing, and it allows you to pretty much just waste your BFG all the time towards the end game. So it's a very powerful rune. We'll get into it more a little bit later, and I'll also be talking with you guys about how to master it, but actually unlocking the rune is super easy, so I'm just going to cut to when I'm done. And you'll see right away I go to equip ammo boost, as it is our new best rune to equip. Remember, if you are using the bite and switch trick that I showed off earlier, you can equip it alongside vacuum and another rune if you want to, but since I'm not using this so that my controller homies can keep up, make sure you just put on ammo boost. Not only is it immediately extremely powerful, it's also one of the slower things that we want to master very quickly, so it's best to get that going right away. At this point, I'm moving towards the hidden Argent cell, which is a secret and an Argent cell, so we're going to go ahead and pick that up, and I actually decided to grab ammo for this one. There are two reasons for this, the first one being that we just really need an ammo upgrade, and since we already have nearly full health, it's not that big of a deal to get the extra 25. So now we're moving into the outside bridge section that you're intended to have the moon boots for. And I'm just going to be showing you guys how I cross this bridge, as it can be a little bit scary with the imps spawning super far away from you and tossing fireballs at you. The imps have a couple of different ways that they can go at you. Sometimes they'll stay super far away from you and just toss fastballs. Sometimes they'll get really close to you, which is what happened to me in this run. But pretty much you just want to take them out or run past them, whatever makes the most sense. Either way, there's plenty of combat experience in this level anyway, so we don't really need that. That said, if they're in your way or you're just worried about them, feel free to kill them, it's not too hard, and you can just make use of the rocket launcher or the heavy assault rifle. Now, if one of them sets you up to get a glory kill, you can absolutely go for that, as you do need to get 4 back glory kills on the imps. But there's a ton of imp spawns throughout the level, and there are even some that we can do while we have an invincibility power up, so there's no rush to get them here. At this point, we want to move towards the weapon mod bot. We don't really need this one, but there is a secret in here, so it's good to get it for the weapon points anyway. But the mod bot isn't really going to give us anything useful, as right now we have all of the currently good mods for our weapons already unlocked. Either way, we can hop up here, and there are some enemies, so I'll show you guys how I took them on. You can kind of go for mastery ticks on these guys, doing whatever you like. I went for some double trouble for the super shotgun, but if you have something else you want to work on, you could do that instead. We're also going to start unlocking the mastery for the tactical scope on the assault rifle here pretty soon as well, but we don't quite have enough weapon points yet, but we'll do that a little bit later in the level. So once you take this guy out, and you're moving across the outside area between the rooms, there is going to be a Hell Knight here, so you'll want to watch out for that, but since everything's in front of you, it's not too hard to just take it all out. Remember, if you have the mastery on the rocket launcher, you want to try to do the remote det right before the rocket would direct hit. That way you're getting the double damage from having the remote det explosion and also the direct hit explosion from the rocket itself. So now we can run in here and grab the weapon mod bot. There's nothing really that good here. I just grabbed lock on burst for the fun of it, but I'm never going to use lock on burst, so I could have just left this mod bot behind since I already got the secret anyway. Once we get that, we can hop back down onto the big pipe and then jump our way towards the next cutscene, and I'll cut to after that for you guys. Oh yeah, one thing though, try to jump early on these rather than late, just because if you jump late, then you're possibly going to you're going to fall off before doing your double jump, and then you'll not get enough distance. But since the gap isn't actually that big, you can do a really early jump just to ensure that you get both your jumps off, which is kind of a big deal. Also, you'll want to grab the Praetor Suit point down here, and at this point we have enough weapon points after getting that third secret to get the mastery going on our assault rifle. So I grabbed that, and now we're going to cut to the next part. So this is the quad damage arena, and we're going to have a double summoner fight in here as well. You'll see I actually go for the auto map here just so that I can spend a little less time locating one of the secrets later, but that is totally optional. That's just why I went and grabbed it. Right here you have two imps, and you can either go for glory kills on them or go for a weapon mastery tick. As you can see, I failed the double trouble and just went for a glory kill. Do whatever makes the most sense to you though. From here we basically want to clear a bit of an opening and then rush to the quad damage to deal with the rest of the arena. The safe thing to do is pretty much to grab the quad damage and then run to the end of the fight, and from there you can clear out everything because nothing will spawn behind you. It is worth noting that you can just skip this fight entirely and run through the door there, but you do actually want to get the combat experience from this area, otherwise it's going to be a little bit tight later on in the level. So I'll show you guys how I cleared this out. It's pretty much just a combination of rocket launcher, assault rifle, and the super shotgun now. Now that we got that first ammo upgrade, it's a lot easier to maintain our ammo, and now you'll see that I'm going to start wasting ammo, and this is because I know there's an ammo box coming up, and I want to get as many ammo pickups from it as I possibly can, so I'm just going to empty out all of my weapons ammo so that way I can get a bunch of ammo pickups for mastery ticks on the ammo boost rune. So I highly recommend you guys do this a couple of times at ammo boxes, but I'm just going to fast forward past it for you guys since you don't need to watch me do it. So as you can see, we got a bunch of ticks out of that box. And there are a bunch of ammo boxes in this mission and not very many in future missions, so it is nice to get them all done here, at least as many as you can. Right here, you want to be a little bit careful of the train cars passing by, as they will insta-kill you if they touch you in the wrong way, so the smart thing to do is just to avoid touching them at all. Make sure you guys grab the Praetor Suit point, and then I'm going to show you guys the route to the secret, but once you've done that, then we can move on to the next fight. So with that secret done, we can move on to the next fight, and you'll see I do stop and upgrade my stun bomb again, as this is the next thing I'm going to work on. Having the longer stun is pretty helpful in this fight as well, so if you have the weapon points for it, I do recommend getting it. So this fight can be a pretty scary one, but I have a decent route laid out for you guys. Pretty much we're just going to take this guy out by stun bombing him and then doing some rocket and super shotgun swaps. After that, you can move on to the next guy who we're going to do a stun bomb on to run past, and then beeline it for the quad damage. Once you approach this spot, the Mancubus is going to spawn, and you could just take him down with a super shotgun shot, or two if you don't get the full spread on him. From there, you want to finish off the Mancubus that you stunned, and then just start taking out everything from the arena. Enemies are going to be spawning all around you, but since you have the quad damage, you can pretty much just make sure you're doing your best to stay aware of what's around you and looking around constantly, as well as keeping track of your health. If you do see it getting low, you'll want to go for a quick kill to get some health back. The entirety of this fight is going to contain 4 Mancubuses, I believe 2 Hell Knights, possibly just 1, and then a collection of fodder demons including Hellraisers, soldiers, and some imps. If you do get some convenient setups for imps, you can go for glory kills on them as well. When you have the quad damage, you can just do a single body shot with the assault rifle and it will get them into glory kill every time. Or you just need 4 shots without the quad damage, obviously. So that's that fight, and now you just have to do the parkour, and we're pretty much going to go the intended way, so I'm just going to cut to when we are setting up to get the secret, so that I can show you guys the safe way to do that, just in case you don't know it. So this is the reason I took the auto map. Whenever I pull it up, you can see the symmetrical platforms. One has a platform under it, and that is where the secret is located, so it's on the left side for me there. So we can head that way, and I'll show you guys the way to get it. And that's that secret gun, and we're pretty close to having all of the collectibles for this mission now. So I'm going to cut to the next fight, as the rest is just kind of intended parkour, and there's not really much to it. You should already know how to do it. This spot can be a little bit scary. Basically, you want to wait until this thing is out, and then you can jump onto it. And you can do that at the very beginning or the end of the animation of it pushing into the connector there. But now we're into the invincibility arena, and for this one, you basically want to find the invincibility, get near it, and start just killing stuff until you hear the music kick off, and at that point you can pick up the invincibility and do the fight. I'll show you guys how I did it, but since you literally have an invincibility, it's kind of an easy fight because you just don't take any damage. Although one more thing before I just let it play out, if you do screw up the invincibility or it runs out early for whatever reason, since this is just a donut shaped arena, you can run around it in circles forever and pretty much never get hit as long as you're moving properly. So that can be your backup plan, but otherwise, this is how the fight went for me. So that's the fight done, and now we have another Argent cell to grab, and then some more parkour after that. So I'll show you guys the route there, just so that you know where the Argent cell is, as they are the most important pickup. Pretty much it's just in the back of the room right there, to the right of the button here. And I'm going to be finishing off my health upgrades with it now. So I'll cut past that animation for you guys, and we can move on to the next part that has any sort of danger. Now, because we are going for these secrets, I am going to be pulling the lever by running across the room here to the blue side. And I actually do end up using a speedrun trick here, just because I think it's honestly easier, and it's for sure a lot faster. Basically, you ride this thing all the way up, then we pull the lever to unlock the secret, and normally you're intended to ride the elevator back down, but instead we're going to jump back down to it later. That said, you need to bear in mind that if you jump all the way down there normally, you will take fall damage and die. So if you do want to be super safe, you can ride the blue elevator back down and then take the green one up. But in my case, I'm just going to be climbing up this thing, and I'll explain the rest of the trick a little bit later. But it's a pretty fun one, and it is very safe to pull off. I had absolutely no problems doing it, and I have literally never died doing it. That said, I'd still practice it once before you do it in an ultranightmare run. So this part, we have the red electricity things. I don't know about other difficulties, but in Nightmare they stun lock you and basically insta-kill you, so you simply just don't touch them ever. If you're anywhere near them when they're going off, they completely stun lock you and do a ton of damage. And sometimes it's possible to get out, but it's not very likely, so just be very safe with them, and it's okay if you waste some time running through here. There are also going to be 4 total imps that spawn in groups of 2, so they're pretty easy guys to get glory kills on if you don't have enough, but since I've already done them all, I'm just going to be taking them out. You can put on Dazed and Confused to make getting the glory kill here a little bit easier, especially since a lot of the time you're going to be wanting to stun them from pretty far away, and you'll need some more time to approach them because of that. So I'm going to go ahead and cut to the next part, which is this little bit of intermission combat, which does have a couple of soldiers in it that you'll want to pick off, but then you'll have a ton of zombies to do a bunch of mastery ticks on, whatever you'd like to do. So I go ahead and just use the AR with the assault mag to take them down. And I'm also trying to keep this guy stunned so he doesn't whack me, but I do want him to stay alive so I can do double trouble ticks on them. Do whatever makes sense in here to take the least amount of damage and also get mastery ticks, and it's a pretty easy fight, so you don't really need to worry about dying in here. You'll also see me wasting ammo in a downtime here, just because there is going to be an ammo box coming up, and we might as well spend less time shooting at walls by just shooting in other downtime. After you take out this room, this door is going to open and contain a shield soldier and a Hell Knight, so of course you'll want to make sure you're ready for them. The stun bomb and rocket launcher can take out the Hell Knight super easily, and you can also make use of the super shotgun if he gets close to you. This area has a bunch of enemies you could do more mastery ticks on, but you do want to be careful of the engineer in the corner there, because if he gets too close he'll just explode like he did there and hurt you, but I was able to get far enough away to not take damage. It's also helpful if you can shoot them away from the enemies so that it doesn't kill them, that way you can get more mastery ticks going as well. Once we do that, we've just got some secrets to grab, so first things first, I'm just going to dump out all of my ammo so that I can grab an ammo box, and then I'll show you guys those. Although I did actually forget that before the ammo box we have to do the equipment power rune, and this is another extremely important rune that we need to get for the rest of the game, as this is going to trivialize the endgame a little bit later, and you'll see what I mean by that once we get to those levels. This one is another self-explanatory one, and again, since you don't end up actually dying in ultranightmare if you die in runes, I'll just skip ahead for the video's longevity. So now that you've got the rune unlocked, that was actually our 4th one, so everybody not using the glitch can now use a 2nd rune, so make sure you put that on. I like to use vacuum, it's very nice. Equipment power isn't very strong yet until we get more equipments later on, so for now we don't need to use it. It's also very easy to level up before we need it, so I'll show you guys that trick when we get there, but you really don't need to worry about its mastery. You can grab the supercharge there like I did, and then get the ammo box for some more ammo boost rune ticks. And there is also a Praetor suit point in this area, so you got a lot of stuff going on in this spot. After this, we're going to make our way towards the hidden Gauss cannon, which is a very powerful weapon that we're going to be making a lot of use out of. But for now, we're just going to go the intended way. And before you leave the level, make sure you grab holograms here. They are a very helpful equipment, but once again not that reliant on the equipment power rune, so we're not going to be taking it. That said, holograms are very helpful as they help you get shot less, which is obviously very powerful. So here, before we actually jump up this, we're going to hop down and go for the Gauss cannon, which is just down here. Just do a double jump before you hit the ground to make sure you don't take fall damage on accident. Then you'll have to press this button and you'll be able to backtrack a bunch back to where we were, so I'm just going to cut that out for you guys. And now we're on to the final fight of the level, and you may remember that we never went into the hidden level. We're actually going to hop back down there from this point in the level because we get an invincibility power up, which also means that we won't take any fall damage or die from the kill planes that may be in the way. That being said, we don't quite have enough combat rating to be at full stars, so we need to kill a couple of enemies before doing that. So you'll see here, I'm just going to focus on the heavies as much as I can, and then I'll make my way towards the invincibility power up, and we'll take it and hop down, and I'll show you guys the route to do that here. And now that we're in here, we can kind of do whatever we want. I'm just showing off that now I have all the secrets, and since there's some ammo pickups in here and we have time to waste, I just go ahead and pick them up for ammo boost ticks, and if I already have full ammo, shoot before picking them up. At this point, we're just waiting for the level trigger to finish. It's just on a timer, and we'll be done here pretty soon. And now we're on to Kadingir Sanctum. A lot of people consider this to be the hardest level in the game for Ultra Nightmare, but honestly, I think the earlier levels are even harder than this one. I don't think it's that bad. Either way, I'll show you guys some good ways to get through the fights here, a couple of camping spots for some of the fights, that kind of thing. But for now, I'm just going to do some upgrades. You can see I started the mastery on the stun gun, as well as grabbing the first equipment power on the Praetor suit point upgrade section. At this point, we're going to be upgrading our equipment powers on the Praetor suit upgrade points. That way we're prepared for when we unlock siphon grenades a little bit later, but it also does help with spamming holograms, as those are pretty helpful right now too. So we've got a couple of easy enemies to get some more mastery points on for whatever you need. I'm just setting up to get one of my last double trouble ticks I need for the super shotgun, which is one I would prioritize above the stun gun or the assault rifle. From here, I'm going to go ahead and just progress the level and move on towards the next fight. You can also grab the secret that has armor with it, but you should still have pretty good armor from the supercharge earlier on in the last level. So we have a couple of zombies that we can do here. As long as you stay far away, the imps won't spawn, but once you push up, you'll see the imps are going to spawn in, so that's kind of why I didn't push up all the way to get those guys immediately. And you'll also see I do go for one of the sweep the leg glory kills on the Hellraisers, as that is one of the mission challenges. At this point, I have a Hell Knight spawn. Make sure you're watching out for him, and it was probably dangerous for me to go for that glory kill because that Hell Knight could have landed on me right as I finished the animation, but I was lucky and didn't get hit by that. At this point, we're picking things off from far away because there is a trigger that spawns in the next fight that we're avoiding hitting, because we actually have two mancubuses we can snipe off before the fight, that way we aren't dealing with them in the middle of it. So you could just sit up in this spot and the mancubuses will slowly waddle their way towards you, and you can pick them off with rockets and Gauss cannon shots. And now that we've finished off the last mancubus, we're ready to push up and start the fight. And this fight can be a little bit scary, but I still don't think it's too bad, especially since you should still have overflowed armor from the supercharge in the last level. Pretty much you have a bunch of Hell Knights and Imps spawning around you, as well as some Hellraisers, but as long as you have the stun gun up and you're just looking around at all times to make sure you know where the Hell Knights are, it's really not too bad of a fight. Pretty much the only thing that's going to get you here is if you let a Hell Knight sneak up on you, but now that you have over 200 health, it starts being not too bad to get hit. and this is kind of where the game starts to get a bit easier. So you can see at this point I happen to be in the middle of the fight, but there's just a Hellraiser left, which is kind of just how the spawns lined up for me, so I have a pretty free glory kill here. But even if you're not able to get the glory kill on this fight, there's plenty of Hellraisers throughout the level, so if you don't have a convenient glory kill on the Hellraiser in this level, then you could feel free to just skip it and do another one later. You can see a pretty easy combo to take out the Hell Knights is to do a rocket launcher shot from far away, and then do a double shot with the SSG to take them down quickly. Just make sure you're not blowing yourself up with your rocket launcher, obviously. The stun bomb is also super helpful on them as it just makes them sit still, and they are such a mobile enemy that it's very nice. So that's us out of this fight, and now we're going to keep moving on since we still don't really have a lot of collectibles to grab yet, and we'll be backtracking here later. So I'm going to unlock the yellow skull, grab it, and we'll move on to the yellow door. So the area behind the door contains one of the Praetor suit points. You'll want to get all of these not only for getting the Praetor suit points, but also because there is a mission challenge behind it, so you'll get another weapon point for getting them. And now we're ready to move on to the summoner fight. And this one can be pretty tricky because these summoners are actually able to spawn Hell Knights, but fortunately there's a pretty good spot to stand in, and also you can spawn trap the first one after dealing with the imps up here. The full fight doesn't spawn until after you push up, so just kill these imps from far away, and then once you're ready you can push up. Have your stun bomb ready so that you can stun bomb the summoner right there, and take her out with rockets really quickly, or a ghost shot. Then from there you can keep killing things because the other summoner isn't going to be spawned in yet. And now at this point, we're waiting for the rest of the fight to spawn in, so I'm just going to get a glory kill on this Hellraiser to progress the mission challenge for it. And now you can see the rest of the fight start spawning in, including the second summoner, which you're going to want to take out as soon as reasonably, but that can kind of be halted because you'll also have Hell Knights going after you, and you can't really do anything while Hell Knights are chasing you down. You kind of just have to stop and kill them. You can see here I actually failed to kill the summoner when I had the chance to, and now I'm starting to be swarmed by Hell Knights, but I went into this little choke point here, where I could use a stun bomb if anything started getting close to me, and it would make it easier for me to be aware of what's going on. Once I was able to get free, I went and looked for the other summoner, took it down, and now we can just finish off the fight. Bear in mind that upwards of like 7 Hell Knights can spawn if this fight goes the absolute worst possible for you. So you need to just be always ready for a Hell Knight to just pop out of nowhere, and the best way to do that is just to have your stun bomb as your other weapon ready to go, so that you could just pull it out and shoot it immediately. But with this fight done, we can now move on to the next part of the level, where the floating platform is raised in the initial area that we started in. You'll also see that I'm choosing to shoot to pick up every ammo pickup I can, and this is a good idea, and actually something I was not doing was still hitting some chainsaws whenever I could, just so that I could get more ammo drops to progress the ammo rune mod, because I actually end up running really far behind on it towards the end of the game. But anyway, at this point, I'm now going up to the secret with the armor here at the beginning of the level. I didn't come here at first because I already had full armor, but I do still have full armor here, but regardless, I'm a little bit lower now, so I just went to get the secret because we're not going to be coming back here. At this point, I'm doing the parkour here, and you can see I'm doing my jumps really far from the edges here, and this is just to avoid that situation where I might accidentally start falling before trying to do my first jump, using up my second jump, making me fall to my death. It's really easy to do that, which is why I'm taking the jumps the way I am. Just make sure that if you are going for a ledge grab, that you are holding W the entire time and looking directly at the ledge. But now we have this little area that contains a secret to the side here, as well as a couple of mastery ticks you can use with the zombies, and we can go ahead and grab the blue skull and move on to the next place. So this initial area once again has some imps spawning that you can take out by whatever means you like. And we're going back into the arena that we did at the start of the mission. This time, however, there's a quad damage in the arena, and we're pretty much just going to rush down to grab it. This fight has significantly more enemies than it did at the start, including the introduction of cacodemons, which are pretty scary in this game, but with the quad damage, they're not too hard to take out with just a single rocket or SSG blast. After you take down the initial round of heavies, you're going to get some revenants and some more fodders, and since we have the quad damage, you don't even have to be anywhere near the enemies with the rocket launcher to kill them with the remote det, which makes it a very effective weapon while you have quad damage to just take down the entire arena. And of course, if anything gets in your face, you can make use of the super shotgun, and I also mix in the assault rifle a little bit here and there, just to keep my ammo varied and not run out too much. And now we're on to the second half of the fight here, where you have a Hell Knight along with a bunch of other heavies starting to spawn. If you wanted to, you could save the quad damage until this point, and it's a very valid thing to do, but I felt that the quad damage was really nice against the cacodemons early on, and this round still doesn't give too much trouble, especially now that we have access to the super shotgun, rocket, and Gauss cannon all combined. Remember, you can always stun bomb anything you're not able to kill immediately so that it doesn't blow you up. But with these enemies taken care of, we're now ready to move on from the arena. But before we do that, we'll want to make sure we're picking up all the ammo we can for the ammo boost rune, and we also have a couple of collectibles to grab before moving on, the first one being a secret that is also including a rune in it. You just have to climb over here, and we'll be able to grab the Savagery rune. And the Savagery rune isn't that big of a deal, but it does help out whenever we have a Berserk power up, so we're going to take it just because it does add some value, but we won't be taking every rune in the future. We're also taking these runes because we're still trying to get 7 runes so that we have all 3 of our rune slots unlocked for anybody not using the trick. But if you really don't feel like it, you definitely can skip this one. It's not a hard requirement for the run by any means. Anyway, I'm going to skip through it because it's a rune and it's not that hard. And right away coming through the blue door, we'll be able to grab the Argent cell of this level. And at this point, I would grab the second ammo upgrade. After this one, we're going to start picking up some armor so that we're prepared for a rune that we're going to get a little bit later in the game. But for right now, we still don't really need any armor upgrades, and since armor is kind of hard to come by, it's just better to keep our health and ammo up anyway. So once we arrive to this area, you're going to have some lost souls running by. If you can blow them up with rockets, great. If not, whatever. The main thing you want to focus on is the Mancubus in the back here while the zombies are approaching you. Ideally, you're going to want to use these zombies to get some mastery ticks on whatever you need to. So once you have a safe spot to do it, go ahead and get those, and make sure you're killing the Mancubus as soon as possible. You can see for me, for whatever reason, he decided to hop down there. I'm not sure why, but whatever, man. We actually have a bunch of collectibles we need to get in this area, and we're going to be saving that invincibility power up for now, so don't take it yet. The first thing we're going to do is head down this way towards the minigun. You just need to be careful because the Hell Knight does pop up, but you can kill him pretty quickly with some mix of rockets and super shotguns. Now we can grab the minigun, and this is a weapon that you might decide to use if you're not able to do rotations very effectively, especially if you're stuck on controller and can't switch between 3 weapons at once. But for right now, because we don't have a good mod bot for it, we're just going to be ignoring it. And honestly, if you are able to do rotations effectively, you literally don't need this weapon at all. Either way, there's a secret there, so we want to get it for the weapon points for the level anyway. At this point, once you start moving up, you're going to have various waves of enemies spawning, but they're all pretty small sets of enemies, so it's not too hard. There is a very convenient Hellraiser coming up that you can get a glory kill on if you still need them, and I definitely recommend doing that. Another thing you want to do is watch out for these Lost Souls because they can be very mean. Lost Souls do a ridiculous amount of damage in Nightmare, and if you don't see them coming, they will absolutely wreck your shit. Once you go through the cave up here, don't forget there's a Predator suit point behind you, but also you want to take out the Cacos before grabbing that, because you absolutely can be damaged while taking items in this game. So I just take them out with a mix of the Gauss Cannon and the rocket launcher, and then I go and grab the Predator suit point here. At this point you can now go press the button to open up the gate, and we'll be ready to move on to the next fight. You'll see this is also when I grab the equipment upgrade for having 2 slots, which is super helpful because spamming holograms is really effective, especially at this point where they're the only equipment we have that's really good. So once we hop over here and press this button, the gate is going to open up, allowing us to go into the next fight, and we are going to take the invincibility power up into it because it will allow us to rush towards the end of the arena, which is a very safe spot to do the fight. So you'll see I'm just going to run past everything. If you can Gauss boost, that's great, but I'm kind of just going to shoot anything I can that gets in my way on my way to the end of the arena, but my goal is to get there before the invincibility runs out. That said, you do have quite a bit of time with the invincibility, so you can kind of stop and kill things as you're going, and you can see I get there with plenty of time remaining very safely. At this point, for whatever reason, the enemies don't like to just hop directly up here to where that plasma cell ammo pickup is at. They pretty much will only go up the stairs to the side there, and you still want to be watching because sometimes the enemies will do weird things or they'll shoot from you from that location. But in general, the melee enemies that are the most scary aren't going to go to you anywhere other than up the stairs to the side, which makes them very predictable for taking out. So I'm just going to let it play out at this point. This is how I did the fight, and as long as you're keeping aware of the enemies that are on the field, this one should be a really easy one with this spot. So before we leave this arena, we're going to want to grab the other rune in this map, which is going to be Seek and Destroy, one that I really recommend getting, again for making use of during Berserk power-ups, but also just to unlock the next rune slot a little bit quicker. It's very helpful for that too. It's just in the side room over here. We can go ahead and grab it. There's nothing else in here. So I'm just going to skip to after getting it and we'll move on from there, but make sure you grab this one for the Berserk power-ups. So once you've got your rune done, you're ready to exit the area. And make sure you go to the little secret spot that I always forget about on the way out of here. You just have to hop up into the spot on the side here with the doll, and then we can keep going. And at this point, we're almost done with the level. We just have 1 or 2 fights left, but we get something extremely powerful at this point. As you might have seen, there is a mod bot there, but he is a special mod bot because it is the first mod bot that we've gotten since we picked up the Gauss rifle. So you're going to want to pick up Siege Mode. It is undeniably the best mod in the entire game. It's able to almost one-shot everything in the game. The only things it doesn't one-shot are Cybermanks and Barons, and it brings them very close to death. Right away, you'll see I'm grabbing Outer Beam, which is very important. And at this point, you have a bit of a decision to make, because there's actually a pretty big cheese using the Siege Mode. You can see normally there's a pretty long charge up before you can get the shot off, and then the shot uses double ammo, costing a total of 30 to fire. However, there is actually a little bit of a trick that I haven't showed you yet, but you will see me do a little bit later, and it's called Instant Siege Mode. To perform this trick, what you'll want to do is have the weapon put away, and then pull it out, and while the animation is happening, you'll want to make sure you're holding both the fire button and the mod button at the same time, and you will instantaneously fire out a Siege Mode shot. However, this Siege Mode shot does have some weird properties, the main one being that an Instant Siege Mode shot actually costs 60 ammo for whatever reason, despite doing the same damage as a regular Siege Mode shot. But you can see from the demonstration there that the Siege Mode is absolutely ridiculous. We did barely any damage to that Baron at all, and then a Siege Mode shot was able to finish him off. This fight can actually be pretty scary, but if you're making use of Instant Siege Mode, it's not too bad. The first stage of the fight consists of that Baron, like you saw there. After that, you'll get the Summoner that I took down, and you can make use of the Stun Bomb to make that easy. Then from there, you're going to have a Baron spawn, and you want to be very careful with Barons because they can absolutely destroy you. They're pretty easy to dodge, but the only thing that's really scary about them is the fact that they are able to do well over 100 damage in one hit, so you can just get surprise chunked and insta-killed by them, even when you feel like you have really high health. Once you kill that Baron, and then you'll want to grab the quad damage, and you're going to have to do the double Baron fight here. Ideally, you'd take the quad damage after you kill the Summoner, but I just wasn't paying attention and didn't. But you have time to kill 3 of the Barons with the quad damage if you do it that way. And you can see, making use of the Instant Siege Mode, it does one-shot them with quad damage, and it makes it a very quick way to take them out. That being said, if you don't want to use a glitch like that, you absolutely don't have to. Barons are still going to absolutely melt for quad damage just using rockets anyway, and you could still just use regular Gauss shots to a similar effect, just with a little bit less damage. Most of the things that a Siege Mode shot is going to one-shot would also stagger or would just outright kill a regular demon anyways, so if you don't want to use that because you don't think it's ethical, feel free not to, you'll still be able to follow along just fine. When I did my first Ultra Nightmare run, I relied on it really heavily, so I tried to use it much less in this run, and I think I did a pretty good job of doing that. So you'll see throughout the run I still do regular shots with Siege Mode, and also since it has the downside of consuming 60 ammo per shot, I think it's a little bit more balanced than a lot of other glitches might be where they are just nothing but upsides. Regardless, once we get through that, we can come out to this area where we have some heavy demons that are super far away. You could take them out with rockets or Siege Mode. I was just conserving my Siege Mode ammo, but you don't really have to do that here. Either way, take them down with whatever you like. They're very easy to dodge since they're so far away, it's not very dangerous. And from here, we have probably the most scary parkour that we're going to do throughout the run. Once again, you're going to want to be taking these jumps from pretty far from the edge when you're doing them, because you get plenty of height and distance anyways, you don't need to be super close to the edge to make the jumps. Once you get down to this island where the heavies were at, you're going to have some Cacodemons spawn, and if you're not going to instantly kill them with Siege Mode, I'd recommend putting down some holograms as they really help with the long distance fights against the Cacos. But you could see you have plenty of time to charge up a Siege Mode shot even if you're not using the Instant Siege Mode. It is worth noting that if you're not using Instant Siege Mode, mastering this weapon as soon as possible is a very good idea, but since I'm not doing that, then I'm not going to bother doing it. Once you hit this point, you're going to have a Mancubus hiding that's going to come down the stairs behind some of the zombies. Do what you like to take out those zombies for some useful mastery ticks, and then you can take out the Mancubus with whatever you see fit. I decided to do a chainsaw here to get some ammo boost rune ticks, but that is absolutely optional. However, since it's so easy to fall behind on ammo boost ticks, I'd recommend getting chainsaws wherever you have safe ones while you're missing a bunch of ammo. You can even do more ammo wasting on this map and then use chainsaws to get your ammo back if you like as well. At this point, we have some more intermittent combat, and we also have a Predator Suit point coming up. And I actually realized when I was running this that I forgot one of the Predator Suit points. I still don't know where it is. But honestly, at this point, we kind of have all the major upgrades that we want anyway, now that we have equipment that's powered up. So it is kind of minor, and once again, we also have a lot of the weapon points that we need. If you did need more weapon points, then I would make sure that you find that other Predator Suit point, and you could do that with a 100% guide if you need that, or you can even just look on the map, as you'll probably see it on the map if you're just looking around frequently enough. Either way, at this point you'll want to kill everything before turning around and grabbing the Praetor suit point, because once again you are not invincible during this animation, and you will just be killed straight out of it if you leave enemies up behind you. Once you have that though, we're ready to move on to the last arena of the level, so I'll cut there. And this fight definitely does not disappoint, because it is a somewhat difficult one, but there is a quad damage that helps out quite a bit. You can see I'm just sitting near it waiting to grab it until the rest of the fight kicks off, but since I fell a stun bomb on a set of Hell Knights here, I decided to grab it so that I don't take damage from them. Ideally, you'd want to kill these guys before taking the quad damage. The difference does actually help out quite a bit, but once they go down you'll see the rest of the fight start spawning in, and I basically hop up towards the end of the level trigger. This is just because once again, the end of the fight is kind of a safe area. While there's really no real safe areas or real god spots in Doom, it's still a pretty safe spot as long as you're staying hyper aware of what's pushing you. You just need to remember that a Baron's going to spawn practically on top of you and be ready for him. But with the quad damage you can tear apart pretty much everything immediately. And you'll see, with the quad damage this guy's absolutely not a problem, and the other Baron's far away from me, so I have time to hit a stun bomb on him, and then just do a little bit of rotating on him to take him down. Now, if I had picked up the quad damage when I wanted to, I would have even had the quad damage for that last Baron. But at this point, I'm ready to just clean up the fight now. There's just a Mancubus kind of hanging out. So I'm just picking off everything else left in the arena, and once we're done, we can move on and finish the mission. So this mission is a very interesting one, and if you've ever watched a speedrun of this game, you know exactly why. There is a very big sequence break on this mission you can do extremely easily, and it makes this mission go by super quickly. So we just start off like normal, and we're going to grab any collectibles we can that won't break the sequence break for us. You can see at this point, I grabbed the Mastery now that I'm able to for Siege mode, and I have to deal with this one Kako. He's the only real concern. You can see I'm a goober and let myself get hit by him, but realistically you should be able to avoid that as long as you're ready for him. You can even just use a Siege mode shot before he's over the railing so that you can just kill him around the corner with it. Once we climb up here, we'll have a little secret area that we can grab, and I just mess around and kill these imps, but they don't actually come after you, so you don't need to worry about them. After we grab that, we can keep going the intended way. Basically, all you have to do is keep climbing up until we hit the point where we're able to see the rune for Armored Offensive way in the distance across a gap. We have to jump over this jump here, which is just able to be made normally, and at this point we're going to be doing the only major Gauss jump of the run. You should absolutely practice this a few times, but you'll get it on your first or second try. It's extremely easy. Anybody can do it. You can even do it on console, as you don't need to turn around like I did. You could just stay facing backwards the whole time and just do the shot like that. The only real advice I have for you is to start holding S, then you need to jump, and then you need to shoot, and keep holding S the entire time, or backwards if you're on a controller, and you'll make the jump pretty much every time as long as you do it from there at the right angle. But like I said, just practice it a few times in a normal run, and then you'll be able to do it in ultranightmare every time. I've done a number of ultranightmare runs of this game at this point, and I've never died to it. Anyway, we are going to grab this rune once again for the Berserk. And once again, I'll be skipping it for the record, just because it's really not too hard because you're given armor pickups to stay alive with. And with that rune unlocked, that is actually our 7th, so we now get the 3rd rune slot if you're playing normally. And for now, I'm just going to put on Equipment Booster for the holograms. Dazed and Confused would be another really nice one to have, but this is kind of just a filler for now until we get the rune that we really want to have in that slot later on. So now we're ready to move on with the level, and I know not everybody's going to like that we just skipped the majority of a level, but I'm kind of okay with it because it is a level specific thing, and we're not just using one specific movement tech to skip every level like this. But I also think an interesting part of ultranightmare is obviously finding tricks to make it easier, and this is certainly one of those. You can see I'm being careful in this place because enemies spawn behind you because we're basically backtracking through the level, so the enemy spawn triggers are a little bit weird now. This is a spot you want to avoid going into, as it's going to trigger a fight that we can skip if we go into there an alternate route. So we're going to run towards this path instead, which will let us get the yellow keycard. All you have to do is climb up this, and we'll also have access to an Argent cell here. This fight isn't too hard of one, and you also have a speed booster in the back, but I like to hold on to that one and save it as a full health pack if I end up getting low during the fight. So you do have a Hell Knight and a couple of fodder demons before the Gore Nest is pulled, but this is kind of just intermission, and it's not really a real combat arena until we pull the Gore Nest. So I grab a little bit of a headshot tick on the zombies that I left around, and we're ready to grab the Gore Nest and do the real fight. Now this fight is a little bit interesting because there's a lot of heavies kind of just spawning all around you, but as long as you kill them quick enough, then you're not going to have multiple heavies on you at the same time. And since this arena is pretty small and open, there's not really a lot of good places to go to hide or a safe spot for it, so the name of the game really is just destroying demons as fast as you can, because they seem to spawn on a timer or on a delay after you kill the last demon, so as long as you kill quick enough, you won't be swarmed by demons too quickly. As you can see, I'm using rockets and a shotgun on the Kakos, but you can also make use of the siege mode on the Gauss cannon, and it will kill them immediately. I also decided to chainsaw this guy just for some ammo and to get rid of him, but you could just kill him any other way that you feel like. Once the Mancubus is spawned, you're almost done with the fight, but before we go, obviously we want to grab the Argent Cell. And I also make sure to pick up anything else that can help me out, including the speed boost, which will just let me run to the Argent Cell a little bit quicker. So this Argent Cell is actually going to be our first armor upgrade. And the reason we're grabbing armor is because in the next few missions, we're going to unlock the Rich Get Richer rune, and we want to start building up our armor so that we have enough armor to make use of it right away. If we didn't start taking armor at this point, then we wouldn't have enough armor to actually get value out of the rune right away. And since we already have 2 ammo upgrades, they're honestly enough to maintain our ammo pretty effectively. So while earlier on it was kind of flexible when you wanted to do health and ammo, at this point you really want to start grabbing armor. But now we're ready to head back and go through the door that opened up when we finished off this encounter, and this is going to let us grab the yellow keycard. You can see I was actually worried about barrels and ran into the corner because of the power-up blast, but there were no barrels. I was just being silly. Anyway, once you grab the yellow keycard off of this guy, we can actually head down the elevator shaft, and this is going to put us into the little room that we avoided going into earlier. But it's going to get us into that room without hitting the trigger that actually sets off the room to start the fight. If you do hit that trigger, then you'll have to do the fight in the room to leave. But since we haven't hit that trigger, we're actually able to just run straight to the end of the level from this point. So all you have to do is turn around and head out the door down here, and then immediately hook a right upon heading out here. Make sure you stay away from the left side upon leaving, and just go straight for the door here. We are missing a bunch of collectibles, but since we got the Argent Cell, that's kind of the main thing, and missing out on the weapon mod bot isn't that big of a deal. And also at this point, we kind of have enough weapon points for us to be in a good spot anyway. So once we're in here, this is the final fight before we get to leave the level, easily making this the fastest level of the game, other than maybe UAC. This fight is pretty easy, there's not a lot of heavies, it's mostly just fodders, so you can kind of just spam the rocket and use remote det to set it off next to them, and the fight will go down pretty quickly. So now we're on to Research Complex, and this is where we start getting into the endgame. This is the level where we unlock the BFG, and from there we get much more powerful. At this point you want to make sure you're getting to ammo boost as fast as possible, so any opportunity you have to get ammo pickups you should be taking. However, in my case, I end up running a little bit behind and not getting it before I get the BFG, but it doesn't end up being the end of the world. It's just something you want to get as soon as you can, so that you can start having emergency BFG ammo at all times. As you can see in the background, I'm taking out the Mancubus at the start. He's not too scary because he's pretty much on his own. Then I showed you the route to this little secret here that has the Printer Suit Point, as well as one of the Argent Cells. But before we get there, we have a couple of zombies we can deal with, and there's pretty much 2 things you can do here. You can go for Mastery Ticks if you want to do that, or you can grab the Glory Kills for the Mission Challenge if you're in need of more weapon points. To do the Glory Kill on these guys, all you need to do is get them in stun, go behind them, and look at their right foot from directly behind them, and you'll get the Glory Kill you need for this challenge. You can see I'm kind of having a hard time here because they're all bunched up, but my explanation is right. But since this is kind of an annoying one, hopefully you just don't need to get the Glory Kills. But if you do, there are a ton of guys throughout the level you can go for. Like I said in the last level, we're going to be taking armor from this Argent Cell, which is going to put us up to 100 armor, which is the bare minimum for making use of Get Richer. And that rune we'll be able to take in the next mission, which will be coming up pretty soon. For now, this mission is pretty easy though. We just have a bunch of intermittent combat, and there's pretty much only 1 or 2 major fights in this entire level. So this one is mostly a breeze, but on the parts that are hard, it does get pretty brutal, so make sure you're paying attention at least on those parts.
Look upon the faces of these extraordinary men. These are the best and brightest minds, the most devout members of the UAC faith, fully endowed.
So once you get into this room, you're going to have a couple of soldiers as well as a Hell Knight. It's not too hard, especially now that we have 2 ammo upgrades. You could pretty much spam rockets on everything to clear out all the mobs in this game. And I think that's probably one of the biggest hurdles for people getting into Ultra Nightmare, is that they don't really understand that they can just use the rocket on everything. and it's an exceedingly powerful weapon for killing literally every type of enemy, from mobs to top and heavies. Once we clear out all of the enemies in this room, you can press the button on the desk, and we get to move into the first big fight arena. So this one just has a couple of fodder sitting around before the fight, and you can use them to stack up any masteries you want to, and there are also some zombies crowded around the gore nest that you can get even more glory kills on if you need them. So the way that we're going to be doing this fight is fighting it normally at the start, and then once we hear the music kick up, we're going to pick up the Berserk power up and switch our runes over to glory kill ones, so that way we are making the most out of the Berserk. Otherwise, I'll show you guys how I'm doing the fight, but for the most part it's just spawn trapping imps with the rocket launcher to the best of your ability. If you're still in the phase of practicing your run on regular Nightmare, I recommend running this fight a couple of times, as it can go in a couple of different ways, just based on how the enemies decide to behave. But the beginning here is pretty consistent. You have imps spawn on either side of you, and you want to just start hitting them with rockets. You'll also see that I'm placing holograms throughout the fight, as they're just very helpful for drawing the enemy's fire away from you. Once you kill a couple of imps, you're going to have a Mancubus spawn. You want to be watching out for him. That's why I stay in the middle of this arena instead of going off to the sides, because while I am more likely to get surrounded, the Mancubuses spawn on the sides and you don't want to be close to those guys. You'll see there you can always use a stun bomb if you need to, especially on the Mancubuses, since they have a bunch of health and you generally can't just insta-kill them. But once the Mancubuses are down, pretty much the rest of the fight is very easy as long as you make good use of the Berserk. We do have a Hell Knight, but you can take him down pretty fast, and then you'll have some enemies. You do need to watch out because a lot of them will be jumping down from the upper stories, and that's why I'm keeping the ceiling on my head so that way they can't jump on top of me. At this point I heard the music kick up, and now I'm switching over my runes before grabbing the Berserk. So for this we're going to use Seek and Destroy, Savagery, and Armor Defensive. This is going to make it so that we can do super fast glory kills, we can launch into them from super far away, and they're dropping us armor, that way we are stacking up as much health as we possibly can while we're using the Berserk. And at this point you really do just go ham on all the enemies wherever they are, just hunt them down and click on them until they go away. The Berserk lasts more than long enough to clear out the entire room. Just make sure you're not getting stuck killing fodder and over while the summoner is alive, because otherwise you might run out of time by not killing the summoner. Another thing to note is you'll notice that I'm not switching the runes while the power up is active, as sometimes that can cause problems. Sometimes it'll just make the rune effects not apply at all, or you'll have random weirdness, so it's good to just wait until the power up is off, or go before you pick up the power up to switch your runes around. Either way, now that we've got the fight done, we can move on to the cutscene with Samuel Hayden, but I'm going to skip that for you guys because there's no reason to leave that in the video, so we'll be back after we do the cutscene. But before I skip the rest of it, I wanted to show you guys this trick for increasing your equipment power. While you're in this cutscene, if you have the hologram equipped, you can just mash the equipment button and it will level up the rune for you. So you could see in the corner for me, I got it leveled up, and this is a great time to do it since there's nothing else to do anyway. This is also the level before we want to actually start making use of the mastered equipment power rune, so it's a great time to do it. That being said, if you forget to do this, you can also do it at any point by just aiming in with the pistol mod and then doing the same thing, and it will have the same effect. But now I'm going to skip this cutscene for you guys so that you don't have to watch it on my end. So I just hopped out of the elevator and we're in this little basement area with a couple of zombies. Once again, you can go for the glory kills if you need them, or whatever ticks you want to get for your masteries. In my case, I'm just finishing off the stun bomb mastery, which is the last one I'm interested in. There's also a Praetor suit point in here you can grab if you need those, although at this point we already have all of the major upgrades, and anything else you can grab is just nice and convenient, like the faster ledge grabs, or being fully immune to barrels, which really isn't that big of a deal, because for whatever reason there's just less barrels as you get later into the game. And you'll actually see it's at this point in the playthrough when I realized I only have 240 ticks on the ammo boost rune, and I'm going to have to lock in and get that done quickly, because I know we're coming up on the BFG pretty soon. But we have another major arena in this outside area, so let's go ahead and talk about that. The first thing to note is you're going to have 4 engineers spawning out here once you walk up and hit a trigger, so you'll want to pick them off before the fight starts, otherwise they could sneak up on you in the middle of the fight and take you out because they do a ridiculous amount of damage. Once you're ready to the fight, there's going to be a bunch of heavies in this fight because you're expected to pick up a speed boost, but honestly I wouldn't bother picking it up unless you get low health, that way you can use it as a health pickup. Although if you do prefer to pick it up, you absolutely can. I just don't think that the speed boosts are really that great of an effect in actual combat. So you can see here we have a Mancubus that we want to just kill off of spawn, and once we do that, there's going to be a bunch of fodders followed up by the occasional heavy spawning. I believe it's a Revenant, there's going to be a Hell Knight at one point, and then there's going to be some more Mancubuses as well as Cyber Mancubus at the end. But this fight is pretty straightforward. You can kind of set up in one of the corners if you want to camp a bit, but at this point I'm feeling pretty free just because we have a lot of armor and health now, and we have all of the weapons in our arsenal to be super effective. So that's why I'm starting to be pretty ballsy with my moves, just because the game is honestly in a state that is easier than it was in the early game. But you can look for all the spawns to expect in the gameplay here, and create whatever path you'd like to use. But honestly, I found in Doom 2016, it's just not that hard to freeball most of the fights. You can see here I go for a chainsaw on this guy since I have 5 pips, and I'm at the end of the fight where I would have used up a bunch of ammo. And that was just to get some ammo boost mastery ticks, otherwise I could have just used my guns to kill them because we have super strong guns now. Once we're done with that, we go over here and press the objective button, and at this point we have a couple of secrets to grab before moving on to the next place. There isn't really anything scary in the level until the final combat arena, but right here we're going to run in here and go for the rune. I actually choose not to pick up the rune, but I do want to get the weapon point because there is a mission challenge for picking up the runes, but you don't actually have to unlock the runes, you just have to touch the tablets. So I do that here, but because this is a rune I'm literally never going to equip, and we're just trying to get through the game, I just leave it behind. However, the secrets in this area are much more important. This is where the lever is, however I don't even go for that because at this point I don't need all the secrets, it's just a waste of time. But there is a super boost and an Argent cell out here that I do want to get. So first thing I'm going to do is head towards the Argent cell, which you can do by just climbing this tower here. You do want to be a little bit careful with the parkour as there are a couple of close jumps here. You can make use of the Gauss cannon to boost you up a little bit more if you're scared and you're confident in doing that, but the jumps are all very doable. From this rock tower you can jump down to the Argent cell from here. It's a little bit of a scary one, but it's also a pretty easy one to do once you've just done it a couple times. And once again we're going to be grabbing armor until we max out armor because we're about to get the Rich Get Richer rune, which is going to be a very big deal for the run. You do want to be careful because some lost souls spawn whenever you pick up the Argent cell. There should be 2 of them, so you'll want to take them out before you put your guard down and go back to doing parkour fully. Sometimes there's even a 3rd, I'm not sure what exactly causes it, but sometimes I only have 2. I think that picking up one of the things causes 2 to spawn, and doing another thing causes 3 to spawn, but I'm not entirely sure how it works, but you actually saw the lost soul on the corner there, but I didn't see him. Either way, we're going to climb back up here again, but this time we're going to jump towards the super boost over on the right here. And now you see that I actually noticed the lost soul. So if you don't see it, I'll jump towards it here in a second, but we're going to have the super boost behind the pipes right here. And you would be a little bit careful because a Cacodemon spawns here and he can mess you up because Cacodemons just do lots of damage. So you could take him out with a siege mode if you're worried, or you could just use the rockets and shotgun combo that I used. And from here, we're ready to pop into the hatch. The hatch is pretty easy to time, just make sure you're not pushing it, just be safe about it and make sure it's fully open. The lights on it change to yellow whenever it's changing, so if it's fully green you're good to go in for sure, but once it's turning yellow it means it's going to close pretty soon and you probably shouldn't jump at it. In this area we're actually going to grab a mod for our minigun if you want to use that, although I end up not using the minigun at all in this run. So for me, I could skip it, and if you're like me and you prefer just doing damage rotations, then you can absolutely do that instead. So I'll show you guys the route to it, and then we'll move on to the next fight. I will say if you are taking a minigun mod, you definitely want to take the mobile turret. I don't really know why Gatling Rotator exists. It's basically the same thing, it's just a DPS increaser, but mobile turret is just a bigger DPS increaser, so it's objectively better in every single way. Either way, we could turn this thing back on and we're going to head towards the BFG arena. And I use the term arena loosely, it's just a little donut hallway with a couple of enemies in it. And it's actually kind of funny because the soldiers for whatever reason only have 1 health, so you'll see them get absolutely disintegrated by whatever you shoot them with. But pretty much you'll just walk around the hallway and kill everything as you see it. The only thing you really need to watch out for are the cybermanks here, but since they're in isolation you can just stun bomb them and then melt them with whatever weapon rotation you're doing. So at this point you have a couple of rooms with zombies, and all you need to do is go and grab the torso guy to unlock the door, but I'll quickly show you where the secret is as well. You just hop in this vent and then there's a doll in here if you are trying to get the secret. Although realistically I don't need to go for this, it just doesn't matter. So now that I have that, we're just going to cut to grabbing the torso and opening up the door. So you'll see I'm going to attempt to do the speedrun trick to skip this little mini game, but I do fail it and have to do it. But if you do hit a really good ghost jump there, you can absolutely skip this minigun and just grab the BFG right away. And there's not really anything dangerous about it, so feel free to try it yourself if you want to. But for this one, pretty much just play it safe and don't walk into the lasers because they absolutely will insta-kill you. You should know how to do this, so I'm just going to skip to the next bit with combat. So now we have this room that is full of zombies, and I decided to just get a couple of siege mode level ups before I accidentally hit a barrel, just because it's the only thing I'm really missing as far as masteries go, before I come in and press this button and move on to the secret, but there's a bunch of waiting here, so I'll cut to that. To the right of the button, this door will open up and it will reveal the room with the rune in it, so I'm going to run in there and grab that, and once again, I don't actually care about this rune. This is a terrible rune. You're literally better off not using a rune at all than using this rune, so just don't bother with it. But with the mission challenge done, I'm now happy with myself, and we're ready to move on to the next part. It's also worth noting that there are holograms in here if you missed a hologram at the last place you could get it. This is another place you could get it, but I hope you didn't forget the hologram. And now, this is our first fight facing the Pinky. I believe you were intended to face the Pinky back at Argent Tower Destroyed, but we skipped all that in that mission, so now we're fighting the Pinky for the first time, and they're actually a pretty scary enemy in this game. Unlike in Eternal, where you literally have 5 or 6 things that just hard counter them like scissors versus paper, in this game you pretty much have to do some tricky things to get them. You could stun bomb them and then use SSG in their back, or you can go for a siege mode shot around the side of them that is close to them where it'll hit their tail. But if you don't do either of those things, then you actually have to dodge them, which is a little bit scary because they do over 100 damage in their hit, and they also stun lock you for a bit, so they are an absolutely terrifying enemy to get close to you. But as you'll see, we're now on to the next combat arena, and you'll want to watch out for those lost souls that I dealt with. An easy way to counter them is to just run to one of the sides, so that way they can't sandwich you from both sides at the same time, and you can just pick them off one at a time, no problem. So this is our first fight actually using the BFG, and you're actually given 3 shots in this room, so you can use up 3 shots however you like. I'm very loose about the BFG in this game, unlike in Eternal where we have it very tightly routed. But in this game, not only do you just have a ton more drops, as well as a 3rd shot in your capacity, ammo boost being boosted also gives you even more, so you end up with this ridiculous surplus of BFG shots, and you can really just use them anytime you're having a panic moment. That said, there are some fights I recommend using them in, just so that you can pick up ammo directly after using it, because it's always nice to keep a full BFG in case of emergencies. Just don't be afraid to use it in those emergencies because it's very easy to replenish. So you'll see I'm pretty much setting up in this corner next to the red portal. This is a very nice spot because you have a wall to your back so nothing can get behind you, and if you do end up getting overly surrounded, you can run through that portal to get away. Just be careful as always when using a camping spot in this game because you will slowly get your health picked away, and it's just something that you can't really help. You'll see there I got blasted by one of the soldier shots, and that prompted me to use a BFG just to clear out the room. But there is a ton of spawns in this area, and you're definitely expected to use several BFG shots for it. You can see that whenever Hell Knights are getting close to me, I'm making use of the stun gun, and then just rotating between the high power weapons to take them down quickly. If there was a planned BFG shot to take, it would definitely be when this summoner spawns, just so that you don't have to deal with its bullshit. But that is far from the end of the fight either. The end of the fight is triggered, I believe, by a couple of Mancubuses, so once you start seeing Mancubuses, you'll know that the fight is near its end. One thing you do want to watch out for are these 2 Cacos though, especially the one that has direct line of sight. You can see I did an instant siege mode on that one just to get him out of the way, and then took some evasive action on the other one while I got ready to take him down. I elected to just use another BFG because I had so many laying around and I knew there was Mancubuses as well, but unfortunately my BFG shot didn't even hit this guy, so it was kind of a waste. Either way, because we have so much BFG ammo, it's totally fine to spend up to 3 in this room easily. And honestly, if you already have ammo boost mastered, you're probably going to get a BFG ammo drop from one of the enemies too, so you can be very liberal with it. At this point, the fight's over and I just have a couple of soldiers sitting around, and I'm just wasting ammo to chainsaw them for more ammo boosts. Mastery ticks. So I'm going to go ahead and cut to the second stage of the fight that happens once you finish off the last enemy in this fight. So once you've run around and collected all the things from the arena you want, we can start the double Baron fight, and this one is laughably easy because we've saved the quad damage for it. Basically, BFG spam the first half, and then use quad damage on these Barons and it's no problem. Remember, when you have quad damage you can insta-kill them with a siege mode, but even the super shotgun does enough damage if they're up close, so there's a ton of options for taking these guys out. But with those 2 down, that's the end of this level, and we're ready to move on to Laz Labs. And this mission is where we get the last two pieces of the puzzle to becoming bustedly OP. The first one is given to us right away in the form of the siphon grenade, and as long as you have equipment power mastered and equipped, you'll actually be able to get armor from enemies using the siphon grenade, so you can keep yourself fully stacked up all the way to 350 using this grenade, and it is super fast in giving you the stacks too, look at that. And since we have two of them and the maximum regen, we can have them pretty much all the time. I mean, by the time those first two ran out, I already have another one ready to go. So we're going to be abusing this to keep our health and armor really high up, and throughout the rest of the run, you'll rarely see my health dip under max. So for now, we just have a little bit of incidental combat. You don't want to watch out for the Pinky because he can catch you off guard. And at this point, I'm just going to waste a bunch of ammo for the sake of opening up this box and getting a bunch of drops. So I'm going to cut past that for you guys. I do love the ammo crunching sound though. Anyway, once you grab that, we're going to go in here and you can grab the secret if you care to in the little vent back here. But otherwise, we're actually going to grab the supercharge out of here after the fight because we already have pretty good armor. So we're going to head back and actually go the normal way by pulling this guy's body out of the elevator. Just be a little bit careful because you're going to have a bunch of imps pop up from here, so make sure they don't catch you off guard. And you can even stack up on them with the siphon grenade if you're not full on armor already. At this point, we'll pop the vent off, and this is going to be the first fight of the level. Or at least the first real fight. We did already have some incidental combat. And this fight is a pretty easy one because we have a nice camping spot that makes it very safe. So I'll show you that. It's pretty much just behind the gore nest here. You can pick off the enemies before the gore nest starts, so that way you don't have to deal with them on top of what the nest spawns as well. But realistically, this spot is so good that you could just start it right away if you're confident. And I'll just let it play out because literally the entire fight I'm just going to be sitting back here. And the only thing that changes is that a Hell Knight pops out of the box on the left there. But I got a really good view of him on the camera when I was fighting, so you'll get to see that when it happens. Just be paying attention. So that's the fight here, and you see I just go for a chainsaw on that last imp just to get some more ammo boost ticks. And now I almost have it maxed out, which is very nice. So we can head over here and take out these zombies, but before we leave the area, we're actually going to want to grab the super boost, and it's super easy to grab. You don't need to scroll jump or anything. It's just a very straightforward ghost boost and a double jump directly under it, and you'll pick it up really easily. So with that picked up, we can keep moving on through the level, and we're about to grab the most broken rune in the game by far. But before we go there, you can grab a Praetor Suit Point out of the spot over here if you're missing any upgrades that you want. You just jump backwards when you see that door, and you've got the little vent area here, and you'll get some ammo and some other nice goodies. Anyway, once you grab that, we can go back through that door and move towards the rune. So we're just going to have some walking, and there's a very obvious mod bot you can grab if you want it, but I don't actually need it, so I'm just going to move on until we get to the next spot with a landmark before the rune. So once you get to this area, you'll have a little bit of incidental combat. I go for a little mastery tick on my siege mode, but I actually end up messing it up, unfortunately. Either way, I don't really care about it. I'm just doing it because it's the only one I have left to do at this point. After you get through the zombies in this little hallway, this room is going to have some soldiers and eventually a Hell Knight, so you'll want to watch out for them. But at this point, this is basically nothing. This is just easy mode. So we can kill them and then move on to the next area where we're going to grab the rune. If you see that hatch on the ground, you're going to want to go in there, And this is how you access the secret with the rune. So here's where it was from. You come out through this door, go up the stairs, and the hatch is right there. Don't miss it. In here, you have a little bit of a crawl space to go through, and then you end up in the room with the rune. And this is going to be a rune that I'm actually going to show you guys how to do, just because it's kind of a difficult rune, and I could see people getting stuck on it. Even for me, I end up dying a few times on this one, so I'm going to cut to the one where I get it and tell you guys what I'm doing. So this one, we do have full health at least, but unfortunately you're given a unupgraded remote dev rocket launcher, so it's kind of poopy. But pretty much I like to focus the Kako and just take out the soldier near me because he's annoying. But the Kako is the one you want to take out first, because as you kill enemies, more of them spawn. So leaving the little guys up lets you spawn in the big guys a little bit slower, which makes it a bit easier. Once you take out these guys, you'll have a pair of Hell Knights spawn, and you basically just want to kite them. You can keep running away and taking pot shots, and making use of the remote det mod if you end up missing them. But it is worth noting that you'll get more damage for direct hits with this gun than using the remote det. It's just better to use the remote det if you were going to miss anyway. Once you take down the Hell Knights, you're going to want to watch out for pinkies, as there are some invisible pinkies in the arena now. However, since they're the invisible kind, they can actually be taken out by being shot in the face or on the back. Either way, it doesn't matter. So you can either direct hit them in the face, or you can just shoot it over their back and remote det it behind them. Either way, you could take them out pretty quickly like that. Just make use of this area that has the fall off, because they have a pretty lengthy animation for jumping up and down it. And that helps you keep your distance from them, because they are very scary up close, especially when you only have a rocket launcher, which will literally kill you if you shoot it in close range. So that's how we get the rune done, and we're going to equip it right away. So in my case, I decide not to equip it right away because I still need just a few more ticks on my ammo boost, so I'm just going to knock those out and then put the mod on. So you'll see me basically just use up a bunch of ammo here, and then go for a chainsaw on one of the zombies, and that'll help me get the last of the ammo boost ticks that I need, and then we'll be able to put on Rich Get Richer. And now we're going to have infinite ammo at all times, which is going to enable us to fully spam all of the OP guns constantly. This also alleviates basically the one downside of doing instant siege, so if you are making use of that, then it is really helpful to have the infinite ammo. And you could see me showing it off here, that you could just do it repeatedly, no problem. So once we drop into this fight, this is basically a symmetrical area, and I recommend picking one, either the left or the right side, and just hanging in it as a camping spot. You can grab the quad damage if you want to, but honestly the safest thing to do is just run straight to the camping spot and get in there, because it's a very nice spot. But obviously the quad damage can help you with just killing things nearby sooner, and it doesn't hurt to just grab it before most of the enemies are really paying attention to you. You'll see me doing quite a bit of movement here, but honestly you really can just sit in the corners and play it safe if you want to. I'm just very comfortable with the game at this point, so I'm willing to be pretty aggressive just to go a bit faster. The one thing you want to watch out for are the mancubuses spawning on the sides, but once you see one spawning on you, you can just hit him with a stun bomb and then melt him with the super shotgun. Either way, the arena in this fight makes it very easy to take on, so even though we mostly swagged the quad damage, we can still finish off the fight no problem. And remember, if your health ever does end up getting low, your health or armor, you can always use stun bomb on an enemy and just double toss your siphon nades on them to get like 120 health back immediately. So this is basically the first fight in the game where you could just go on an absolute power trip, destroying everything with Rich Get Richer, no problem. And as always, don't be afraid to BFG in this room if you need to, because you're going to have practically infinite BFG ammo using ammo boost, as long as you're using them somewhat sparingly at all. So if you're in any sort of panic situation, just whip that BFG out and take them down. Also, you could press this button for a secret Predator suit point if you want, but if you don't care, then we could just continue on into the next room. So this fight has actually killed me in Ultra Nightmare 1 or 2 times before, and it's mostly just because they spam pinkies at you in a pretty open room with no verticality to it. So you want to be really on point about where the pinkies are, and I recommend just saving the speed booster as an emergency health pickup if you end up losing all your armor and getting low on health. You can see that I'm making use of instant siege to take down the pinkies from far away really safely, or using the stun bomb and SSG combo if they're closer to me. You can also use the rocket launcher with remote det to take them out from far away, as you can blow it up behind their back and that does full damage as well. So you do have a couple of ways of countering them, but the one thing I wouldn't do is play footsies with them like I did this one. Remember, if they hit you, you are going to be seriously cooked because they do a ridiculous amount of damage on Nightmare. But as long as you're watching out for all the pinkies, I believe there's a total of 7 of them during the fight. then you'll be all good. It's also worth noting that if you do have to grab this power up due to health and you need even more, you can run back here and grab the supercharge in the middle of the fight as well. But as long as you can handle the fight decently, then you can always just take the supercharge into the future arenas. At this point, we're through the halfway point in Laz Labs, and I'm going to cut past the loading screen for you guys. So pretty much now, we're just going to run into a room, press a button, and also pick up the Argent cell while we're in here as well. This will be our last armor upgrade we need to have the maximum possible max armor. And while unfortunately we already have 200, so it's not giving us any, it's still worth it to just increase your max armor capacity as soon as possible. That way you could start making use of it as soon as you can. But I'm going to go ahead and cut to the fight because there's a bunch of downtime here. So once you finish off the cutscene, the fight is going to start shortly after, and I like to set myself up at the top of the stairs as a very safe and easy spot. There is a riskier speedrunner strat that can actually be much easier to do if you can pull it off, but if things go wrong it gets a lot more dicey, so I recommend sitting up here instead. But if you guys didn't know, basically the spawns in this room are based on where you're looking. So as long as you keep your aim relatively forward and in the center of the room, all the enemies will spawn below you down there. But if you start looking to the sides very often, then you're going to start having enemies spawn on your sides, and then they're going to get kind of annoying. So that's why the spot that the speedrunners use is super effective, because you can funnel all the enemies into a tiny space. But it's kind of hard to pull off and dangerous if you screw it up. So we're using this relatively safer spot that can still get the job done pretty easily. Anyway, there's not really a lot to be said about the fight other than how it works there. So I'm just going to let it play out for you guys, and you guys can see how it goes for me.
Demonic presence of unsafe level. Not anymore.
So you'll see at this point I decided to do a BFG, and there is actually a allowance for a BFG here very easily, and you'll even see that I end up getting a random ammo drop from it afterwards. But you can absolutely use the BFG if things start getting out of hand here as a bit of a reset button, and doing that will also let you reset these spawns to all spawn back in the middle again like you want them to. That being said, you do want to be a little bit careful with your BFGs, as we do want to go into the boss fight with full BFG, so just bear that in mind. That said, it's always better to BFG than it is to die in Ultra Nightmare. So now we have this little church area down here, and it has some basic enemies in here, but these guys are no problem at this point. Take them down with whatever completely overpowered thing that you have at this point. It's a great time to be mastering your mobile turret if you want to do that. But for me, I don't bother because I'm not actually going to use it. So once we get through here, we have a little bit of a puzzle to do, but we're just kind of blazing through the levels now, so I'm just going to skip past it. All you have to do is press the button up top. There is a Praetor Suit point down here, as well as a secret door if you want to grab it, but we're not really going for those that much anymore. The only thing after this door you want to watch out for is the zombie that's right in front of you, but you can just one-shot him with a weapon of your choice. And then you have a big crowd of fodder in here that you can take down with your explosive guns. And I look over here for whatever reason, knowing full well there's nothing there because I've already 100% in this game in the past, and move on in the direction I need to be towards one of the last fights of the game. I decided to just swag a BFG shot since this guy happened to drop me one, and I keep moving forward with the level. You could see me even ghost boosting around now, especially with infinite ammo. There's literally no downside to doing it, you just get to go faster, and that's always fun. Once we press this button, the door is going to open up, and we'll be able to make our way into the next room, which is a small fight I'd say, but it's not quite incidental combat. There are some actual enemies in here. For the most part though, because of all the cover and all the walls in the way in the arena, the best move is to just spam rockets around because most of the enemies are fodders and will just get blown up by it instantly anyway. As always, remember you can use the stun bomb and siphon grenade combo if you need to get your armor back, and you should pretty much be able to keep yourself at full health and armor at all times. You'll actually see that I get a free BFG shot from this guy, but I decide not to use it just to show you how to fight this normally, because if you don't have a free BFG shot, obviously that wouldn't be a great way to show you guys how to clear the room. But obviously, if you get a swag BFG shot in here, you can just go ahead and use it for extra safety and not having to deal with the enemies. Once you clear out the fight, there's actually a vent in the room I just left that you'll want to take to go to another rune, and this is going to be the saving throw rune. This is the last rune of the game, and it is a super good one for Ultra Nightmare because it allows you to have a extra life if you end up dying. Basically, instead of dying, you'll go into a slow-mo state and it won't let you die. You'll be health gated at low health and given the opportunity to have a long period of invincibility to stack your health back up off of some low health kills. You'll also see there is a BFG shot in this area, so you can be short a BFG shot coming into this arena, and you'll be able to pick this one up. At this point, I decided to grab the faster ledge grabbing because I'm able to afford it. And this can be helpful sometimes in combat because if you're doing ledge grab animations, you're still vulnerable, but doing them for a little bit shorter is going to leave you less vulnerable. Once again, I'm going to show you guys how to do this rune just because it's kind of a pain in the ass. So in this rune, you have to do it no hit. However, you are given a siege mode Gauss cannon, which is super powerful. You'll see that I'm able to pull off instant siege modes by doing a melee and then doing the same holding both buttons strat. And that makes it very nice for taking out the Caco Demon in a single hit. And we can do this on all the heavies in this area as there is plenty of ammo laying around. But since it's such a waste of ammo, make sure you're just using regular shots on the fodders, and you should have absolutely no problems clearing this out after a couple of tries. You just have to be very locked in on dodging all the shots, especially these soldiers since they spam a ton of projectiles. But with saving throw unlocked, you'll be able to leave that in your back pocket for whenever you need it. Pretty much, I'd only put it on if you end up like losing all your armor and being worried that you're not going to be able to get it back, especially during a boss fight where you might not be able to stack up your armor off of them. But I wouldn't recommend just leaving it on all the time, because realistically, if you've been playing the game for enough time, you can kind of tell when you're about to die, and just open up the rune menu which pauses the game and put it on. Doing this will also give you some time to think about how you're going to recover, so overall it's just a good idea to do that. Once you're into this fight, this is one of the scariest ones of the entire game, just because there isn't really a good spot to be in, so I recommend just hanging out in this high spot where you start off at. That said, you still need to be very careful because you're going to be shot quite a bit. If you guys have a better spot for this arena, feel free to leave it in the comments down below, but we are given a couple of BFG shots, so you can always just shoot those if you start freaking out, and you can use up 2 or 3 of them, especially since the boss fight coming up is actually really easy once you've practiced it even a little bit. And if you really feel like it, there's even a cheese that can just insta-kill him, but I will be teaching you guys how to do them the normal way. So you can see I'm making use of the siphon grenade anytime I see an opportunity to do so, but you're pretty much just strafing back and forth from this spot and taking out the enemies with the rocket launcher from afar. If you do accidentally fall down, then the backup strat should be to pick up the quad damage and start tearing things apart, which you can see I do at this point. I get knocked off by that Revenant, so I go through and actually get knocked by this Pinky, and at this point I'm freaking out, so I pull out my BFG and fire it across the room, killing pretty much everything and giving me a moment to grab the quad damage. The quad damage then refills my health, and obviously I have quad damage for taking on the enemies now. Then I see an isolated Hell Knight, and I can get him with the siphon grenades, and now we're sitting in a pretty good spot again. But just to be safe, I use the second BFG shot in the allowance here, and that's the fight done for me. So this was far from a clean version of the fight, but because I'm actually playing this through on Ultra Nightmare, I don't really have a way to go back and play it again for you guys. But just bear in mind that you can use 2 BFG shots on this arena, and as long as you don't panic and just shoot it into a wall, you can kill a ton of enemies with the BFG, which is going to cut down on the problems in this arena quite a bit. After we get out of there, we can move on to the boss fight. Although don't forget to pick up the BFG ammo in the arena, and also the one right before the boss fight in the little area before it if you need it. So going into this fight, I recommend having the BFG in hand, and like I said, I'm going to be showing you guys a more ethical way to kill him, but some of you may know that you can just insta-kill most of the bosses in this game by firing the BFG off into the sky and just holding the weapon wheel button, which will make them take an absurd amount of damage while the weapon wheel is active. But the reason we have the BFG out here is actually because it stuns him and makes him take more damage from our regular weapons. So the first thing we're going to do is just shoot him with the BFG so he doesn't hit us with an attack right away, and then we'll start melting him with an alpha rotation, which is going to consist of the rocket launcher, the super shotgun, and the siege mode. And you can see with the BFG shot stagger, he gets absolutely melted by this combo before he can really do anything. So even without using the BFG cheese, he goes down really fast, and even if you're just using something like the mobile turret, you could just use a second BFG shot to stun him again, so that way he doesn't get any attacks off. And you are given a BFG shot in the second arena, so it's not a big deal if you need it. So in the second phase, he's quite a bit more dangerous, and he's always going to get this jump rope attack off, so make sure you're ready to dodge it. All you have to do is time a regular jump and not double jump, and you'll dodge both of the jump rope hits. At this point, you can see he has quite a bit more health and recovered from the stun a lot faster, but I thought I'd take a little bit more time since he's more dangerous here and show off some more of the attacks. This attack right here was very scary to me because I actually have not had to fight this fight very much before, and honestly just hadn't seen this attack before. So I got hit by it, and you could see I'm pulling out my backup plan, which is putting on the saving throw rune in case I get killed by his attacks after that, because I'm now at low health and no armor. But with the saving throw on, I can be safe and just finish him off with DPS and go in for the glory kill to clean him up. So now we're on to Titan's Realm, and I've skipped to where the combat starts, and right away we've got some Caco demons to deal with. They can be pretty easily shot down by a siege mode or just spamming rockets at them, whatever you like to do best. I also want to mention that I did put back on ammo boost and take off saving throw after doing the boss fight, and now once I have the opportunity, I'm going to be using siphon grenades to get back my armor. You just want to be careful walking up these stairs, take it nice and slow, as you do have a cybermank here and a bunch of Cacos spammed at you throughout the stairway. You can see I've got the Caco shooting at me while I'm dealing with the Cybermank, which is a pretty annoying combo because the Cybermank will also leave behind damage over times on the ground. But the Cybermanks are very easy to just stun bomb and hit siphon grenades on, and since they have a bunch of health, they don't get killed by that either, which is super nice. But with this part out of the way, we can now move on to the first little combat arena, and we start off with a bunch of lost souls here. I recommend just blowing them up with the rocket launcher. I don't know why I was using the heavy assault rifle on the first one, just rocket launcher them, dude. Oh, it was because I was low on ammo, I wasn't paying attention. At this point, you're going to want to siege mode down those Cacos together, and you'll see I actually got one of my BFG shots back from the boss fight, and I even had another one drop just because ammo boost is feeling really nice to me. Again, you'll see different luck with ammo boost, and you'll get drops at different points, but in general, overall across the game, you're just getting more BFG ammo, which is super nice. At this point, I'm looking for the secret button, but I kind of forgot where it was. But I grab it, and we can grab a nice little Predator Suit point in the little secret spot here. Now we should have all of the major Predator Suit points, so you don't have to go for this if you don't want to, but I like to just grab the Predator Suit points anyway, just because they're fun, I don't know. Now that we're leaving that room, we go into the next fight, and this is kind of a major intermittent combat, but there are some heavy spawning, so you want to be careful. Pretty much, you just go around here hunting down all the enemies as you find them. Just be careful of the Pinky, he kind of came out of nowhere on me. In general, I recommend just having the stun bomb out until you have a need for another weapon just while walking around. That way you have it ready if something jump scares you like that Pinky did to me. This fight is pretty straightforward though, you're kind of just finding all the enemies and shooting them until you find a button that you need to press to continue on. Also, I got lost in the middle of it, so I'm kind of going to put a cut. And it's so embarrassing saying that I got lost in a game that I know how to easily ultra nightmare it. But I don't know, I play the early levels a lot more than the late levels obviously, because that's just how ultra nightmare is. And the last part of the game is really easy, so I kind of go on autopilot for it. Anyway, I'm going to cut to the next instance of combat here just so that you guys can see the spawns. By the way, if you guys are curious, I was just blind and this button was here the whole time. So once you press it, the combat will continue once you leave this little nook. But all it is a cute little Mancubus, so you can just stack up on him with siphon grenades if you need, and then finish him off before heading into the next room. It is worth noting that we want to master Rich Get Richer because it lowers the threshold for triggering the effect. So whenever you have an opportunity to do so, I recommend doing it. But there is actually a room in this mission that we can instantly level it that I'll tell you about when we get there. But once we go into this room, we are locked into the next major combat, and once again we have a pretty nice camping spot, just being this area right after we enter the room. Pretty much all you have to watch out for is that Cybermank there tossing his stuff at you, but pretty much nothing is going to push up at you. You could see that I leave the spot to push this guy and hang out in this corner for a bit, but realistically you could just hang out in that one spot if you want to as well. This arena is so big that the enemies are kind of spread out and it's just not that hard anyway. So I'll just let it play out for you guys so you can see how I handled it and get familiar with the spawns in the fight. Also, as always, as long as you already have good BFG, feel free to BFG if you end up having any major problems. So after going through the teleportal, we'll be dropped into yet another fight. This one we want to run over to the left and grab the quad damage here, and then we're going to run off to the right side up top, and we're going to have another camping spot. You can make a pit stop to kill these imps, but then you're going to want to run here and jump on the grab lift and hang out in the corner up here. This is a semi-safe spot, although there are a couple of enemy spawns in the corner that you'll want to watch out for, but as long as you're keeping your head on a swivel and watching for the enemies, you should have absolutely no problem. At this point, the game is going by really quickly just because we're starting to ignore collectibles, and we're so powerful that we're clearing out fights really quickly. So once again, there's not really a lot to say. I'll let you guys just see how it plays out and understand where the spawns are, and I'll see you guys after the combat's done. So you can see you have a bunch of heavy enemies up at the end, and if you want to, you can save the quad damage for them instead. But I find it just convenient to grab it at the start because that's kind of a dangerous spot to go to, especially with all those heavies spawning up top on you. So that's why we decided to just keep the advantageous spot for them and spawn trap them before there can be multiple of them on the field at the same time. Once we get out of there, we are once again thrusted back into an arena fight, but this one is pretty easy. Pretty much you want to just sit in the area at the beginning of the arena, and you can actually line up siege mode shots on these enemies that spawn in rows here. You can see for whatever reason I just stop and do upgrades even though I don't need any more. But you know, I just can't help myself. I have a bunch of free upgrade points, I want to use them. That being said, take your bets on if I use the combat shotgun a single time for the rest of the run. Also, I almost forgot, before you can trigger this fight, we actually have to go up top and do a little bit of a puzzle game. So it's very easy. We're basically just grabbing the yellow skull and doing that fight first. So we'll be back in here a little bit later. Anyway, that part is super simple, and if you die to getting crushed by rocks, I have no idea how you made it here on Ultra Nightmare to begin with. So I'm going to cut past that to the next combat arena. So at this point, we grab the yellow key card and then approach the yellow door, which is blocked off by bars, and we ran over to the left here. Now, I was a dum-dum and just used my minigun to get a tick here for some reason, but what you actually want to do is get your armor full and then throw a siphon grenade on these zombies and step in the toxic waste, and you will immediately max out Rich Get Richer. But I'll end up just doing that a little bit later on the mancubuses just because I'm a little psychopath that wants to stack up on mancubuses instead of zombies. So yeah, you want to be a little bit careful in this fight because it can be a scary one, but you either want to just melt the mancubuses using a siege mode or use the stun bomb to stop them from shooting you while you take them out. But as long as you use the little piece of cover in the middle, you can keep them isolated and not team shotting you together, and it's not too bad. Once you leave, you're going to have a pinky spawn, and I go for some siphons on him to cap myself out. Just watch out because when this guy spawns, there's actually a third one spawning at the same time, and you don't want to have him jump scare you while you're dealing with the other one. But with that done, we can go through this door, and I believe we are immediately put into another fight, and that being the Crusher Room fight. I call it that because there is a big stone pole crushing into the ground there repeatedly, and yes, if you go under it, it will instantly kill you, ending your Ultra Nightmare run, so don't do that. This fight, just like all the others in this mission, we have a decent spot just hanging out at the entrance door. You just want to watch out for the Revenant that gets in your face at the start of the fight, and from there you could just make use of Stun Bomb and all your OP weapons. And you can see there, I almost walk right under the Crusher and die, which would have been a hilarious way to end the Ultra Nightmare run and delay this video. But I stopped myself, and we clear off the fight nice and easy. The fight isn't too bad. It ends with a couple of mancubuses, and they're super easy to stack up on if you're low on armor for whatever reason, so feel free to do that. With the fight done, we want to hop on top of the crusher, which is going to bring us to a button. And once we hop back down and go through the door that it opened, we'll have a little bit of a calm moment before going into another fight. This one's a little bit interesting because it doesn't actually trigger until you try to leave the room after grabbing the blue skull. But knowing that the fight is going to trigger when we do that, we're going to go to a relatively safe spot instead of trying to leave the room. So all you have to do is grab the skull here, and then we're going to turn around, and after turning around, go to our left. It would be the right if you're looking at the skull, but it's our left here. And this is actually the one corner that spawns the least amount of things in it. And this room is going to spam you with specters, so you want to be very careful of them. Remember, unlike the regular pinkies, they don't have armor over their face, so you can shoot them in the face to take them out, but the tail is still a weak spot, so it'll kill them faster if you can hit them there. Either way, you want to be absolutely locked in and listening for them, as they do have a very distinct sound effect, and watching out for the various other demons, but the pinkies are by far the most dangerous enemies in this fight. As you guys can see in my combat, I'm not using the siege mode all the time, but if you wanted to be really optimal and safe, you could just be absolutely spamming the hell out of instant siege mode, and it would cheese a lot of the fights very quickly for you. But like I said, I'm trying to be pretty ethical with this one, while still showing off a lot of the cool glitches in the game, so I'm not making use of the instant siege mode too often, unless I really need it. You can see that the fight is going to end on a double mancubus, and I took some damage, so I'm going to stack up on them before leaving the room. But I kind of forgot that there were barons after these guys, but eventually I remembered and just killed them. Although one could argue that it would have been smarter for me to stack up my armor fully on the mancubus before spawning in the much more dangerous baron. But you know, I don't really care, the game's kind of easy at this point, so I'm just getting through it. I'll be honest with you guys, the gameplay from this point on is pretty much all just on autopilot and killing whatever I see. Especially having done this section of the game on ultranightmare in the past, it's just kind of not that hard with the weapons we're given. After we get out of that fight, we can go through this teleporter, where we'll be taken to the blue door, and be brought into what I believe is one of the last or the last fight of the mission. So we're back in this room, and this time we have a berserk power up, but before we go and grab that, we actually want to make use of the siege mode on these guys that are spawning in rows here. You can also just use the rocket launcher on them if you like as well, but make sure you're spawn trapping them so that they don't get this chance to shoot you. You can see that I took some damage, but fortunately there is actually a mancubus pretty much on his own until we kill him. In general, the mancubuses are very frequently the trigger demons in the fights, so anytime you see a mancubus, you can leave him up and then get everybody as dead so that you can stack up on him if you need to. So that's what I'm going to do here for a bit to get back my rich get richer, but I do kind of get impatient once I run out of grenades and just start spawning the rest of the fight. And at this point you can grab the berserk and just finish the rest of the fight using the berserk, but I decided to just use the BFG for style points. You definitely don't have to do that if you are lower on ammo. But since I used a BFG in here and you might not be able to, I decided to just go ahead and swag the berserk power up. So you could just use that if you want to conserve your BFG instead, but I'm just confident that I'll get another random drop at some point and get caught back up on it no problem. So I'll let the remainder of this combat play out, although there's not much left. And then we're going to cut to the next mission, as this was the last part of the mission. So now we're on to the mission that I always forget exists, where we have to go and grab 2 skull keys to open up this little room, and then that'll take us to the last part of the mission. So you're only able to go to this one from the start, and pretty much we've got a little bit of intermittent combat, although it is quite a bit of heavies, so I don't know if it's quite intermittent, but it's not really quite an arena. So whatever you want to call it, I'll just let you guys see how it plays out, and you'll see there I just got the BFG shot that I used back in the last arena. Anyway, there is an Argent cell in this area, but I would recommend killing all the demons before going for it, otherwise they will just kick your ass straight out of it. At this point, I know that the enemy spawns are paused until I go and press the button, so I decide to run back and grab the Argent cell. That way I have another upgrade if I have to do combat without Rich Get Richer, but you can also just wait to grab this until after you've fully completed the fight. But since it was safe, I decided to just get the upgrade sooner, that way in case I need it, I'll have it. So now I'll let the rest of the combat play out for you guys, Once again, we're in the late game, so there isn't really much to say about it. So once we get out of that fight, we're let into this arena right away. In here, the fight is triggered by a button, but we do have a couple of flutters in this area that you can do any masteries you might still need to do. But at this point, I have all the upgrades I care about, so I'm just going to start the fight right away. From here, one of these corners is the safer one. I don't remember which one it is, but honestly, both of them aren't that bad. But either corner on the side of the button is a good spot to hang out, and you could just take the whole fight from here. All you have to watch out for are Hellraisers that'll basically spawn right on top of you occasionally. But the big scary thing you want to do is watch out for the pinkies that you want to take out as soon as you can. It looks like it was the other corner that didn't have the pinky spawn on it, and all the other ones are going to spawn pinkies, so make sure you're watching out for them and taking them out with a quick siege mode shot or using a stun bomb to get them easily. You can see I got a free BFG ammo there, and if you do get a free BFG ammo in this fight, feel free to just fire it off. Or obviously, if you are panicking and getting out of control, you could just shoot the BFG shot and get another one back later. Either way, I decide not to use it, that way I can show you guys the actual fight, and just some more of the combat loop in the endgame, making use of the siphon grenades and Rich Get Richer. And now that we've completed this combat encounter, I'm actually going to use the speed boost in the next arena. So for now, we're just going to grab the yellow skull, and then we're going to beeline it straight to the next fight from here. You can see I'm making use of Gauss boosting, but honestly I keep running into stuff, and it probably would have just been faster for me to run straight here. Now this fight is one I highly recommend making good use of siege mode with, especially with the speed boost if you're doing it without instant siege mode, as it does increase the charge rate significantly. These first guys you could take out with rockets if you want, or set up for siege modes on them, and then from here you want to get ready for the enemies to spawn in rows on these columns, which will happen right after this Caco spawns. So you'll kill the Cacos, and then you'll have the Mancubuses spawn on the columns. If you're ready for them, you can kill them pretty much right away. Once you kill the first group, you're going to have to wait a while for the next set to spawn, and you'll want to watch out for the Hell Knight in the intermission. But once you get those guys down, you're going to want to set up at the angle I'm showing you guys here, which will allow you to actually take out 3 Revenants in one shot, which makes the fight very easy. Pretty much just to the left of this pillar, you'll want to have a siege mode shot ready to go. If you're not using the cheese, just charge it up normally, but I just used an instant there to show it off. Then at this point, you can either go for the quad damage if you want to, but since all the demons are kind of over it, I wouldn't recommend grabbing it. And at this point, we have such a ridiculous amount of firepower in the endgame, you don't even need quad damage to kill this arena easily. So if you do end up saving the quad damage, you can actually pick it up and use it for a little bit in the next fight, but it doesn't really have a huge impact on that, so you can just do whatever you want with it. But since I have it, I'm going to grab it, and now we're going to do the big fight in the center room after doing the little animations with these skulls. So we have to go back to the main room and input all of these skulls. I'm going to skip that for you because it's just a bunch of animations though. So I just finished the animations, and now I'm waiting for the enemies to start spawning. This fight begins with a bunch of Revenants, and then later in the fight it spawns a bunch of Pinkies, and there's also other heavies throughout the fight, but they're a little bit more forgettable. Those are the main things you want to be watching out for. It's kind of hard to say what the safest spot is during this fight, but in general staying up top is a good bet, as all the enemies will have to jump up to you since the majority of them spawn down below, especially the more dangerous ones like the Pinky. That said, I do hop down to try to go for some siege mode shots on the Pinkies, since I know they'll come after me eventually, since that's just how their AI works, is they always try to push you. But if you're not ready for the Pinkies or you're working on other stuff, I highly recommend staying up top instead, that way you have an easier time finding them. You can see that in addition to regular Pinkies, there are also the invisible ones, so make sure you're watching out for those guys, dodging them if you need to, or even better, using a stun bomb on them so that you don't have to try to dodge them. Once you kill enough Pinkies, you'll start spawning more Revenants and other heavies, and this indicates that you're near the end of the fight. Just watch out because you can start spawning these enemies before killing all the Pinkies, and they can distract you from a Pinky and let him catch you off guard, so don't let that happen to you. But once you spawn the Baron, he's typically the last enemy of the fight, and you can just take him down however you see fit. At this point, the door is going to open as the fight's done, and then we can do some parkour, and I'll show you guys the next fight. I recommend double jumping before hitting the ground here, that way you don't have a hard fall impact since you can get shot by the Kako while you're doing that animation otherwise. Then from there, just siege mode down the Kakos from far away so that they don't hit you, and then be pretty careful on this parkour. Like I've been saying the whole time, make sure you jump from pretty far away so you don't accidentally fail your jump. But once you get across, you can take care of the Mank however you see fit. You can see that I was missing some armor, so I also stack up on him as well. There is also a Praetor suit point here you can grab if you want to, although there's not really much of a need for them. Also, one thing to note is that you don't want to shoot the Gauss cannon while you're in the air moving forward, like while you're doing that parkour jump, or else you'll lose all your speed and fall into the void. So make sure you don't use the Gauss cannon while you're making that jump on the Mancubus. Anyway, at this point we're near the end of the level. We just have this little break area before the next fight, so I'm going to cut to that. This area is kind of interesting because you could just immediately skip it with a Gauss boost if you want to, but I'm going to show you guys all the combat because it is a little bit of a scarier Gauss boost, and it doesn't skip nearly as much as the one on Argent Facility Destroyed does. But I'll show you guys the setup for that if you do want to try to do it yourself once I finish the combat in this area. This one is pretty easy because hanging out on the stairway on the side here is a relatively safe spot, and it's also where a BFG shot is located, so you can use one up here if you want to whenever you feel like it. Or you can just hang on to it if you don't end up in any situation where you feel like you need it, and maybe come back to it later. Pretty much, you're just going to have a bunch of Mancubuses and other heavies spawning throughout this fight, but if you're just sitting on the stairs, you can wait until all of the aggressive enemies come after you, and then once everything is gone that's aggressive towards you, you can start finding the guys who are infighting, because that's a common thing in this area. So you can see there, for whatever reason, the game took forever to open up the gate for me. I'm guessing there's an enemy that fell off the map and took a while to die or something like that. So this spot right here, you can Gauss boost past. You even have a speed boost to make it easier if you want, but I'm just going to do the combat instead because it's not too bad, and instantly falling to your death is really scary this late into the game. That said, you would be able to skip this fight, which includes a Baron and a bunch of heavies, so do whatever you like, but I think that the combat is really easy later into the game, so I'd recommend just taking it. Anyway, with the speed boost, this arena is pretty easy. You could just alpha rotation everything down, or just use the minigun if you want to, if you have the mastery for that, which will also make it never have to cool down. And when you mix that with the infinite ammo on Rich Get Richer, it's a very powerful gun all on its own. The one thing you want to watch out for in here is the pinkies that spawn in, because as always they can wreck your shit if you're not paying attention. You have 2 spawn at the end of the room, and then 2 spawn at the beginning of the room as well, so make sure you're watching out for all of them, and once you kill everything you'll be able to leave the fight. So at this point we have one more fight before the boss fight of this mission, and I actually recommend using a BFG here as long as you're full, just because we get a free BFG shot before the boss fight anyway, so we might as well use it. So all you want to do is kill these enemies from back here, and then once you push up you'll trigger another set of enemies including Barons to spawn. And once you start the spawning of the Barons by pushing over this armor, you back up and just shoot a BFG shot, and if you shoot it early, there's actually a Baron outside of the map that will get killed, so that you don't have to deal with his bullshit, and will be able to leave immediately. So I've cut to the Hellguards fight, and this one is definitely a step up from the last boss fight, but they're still not too hard as long as you're able to do proper damage rotation, and you're familiar with the attacks. The first phase, basically, it's like a Marauder from Eternal almost, with the green shield stopping you from attacking it, but all you gotta do is wait for this white ball attack. Once the ball turns white, you can just super shotgun it and it'll stun him, and he'll take a buttload of damage. The boss only has 3 attacks in the first half, so it's super easy, but you do get more attacks from him after you get him under half health, so you do want to watch out for that. If you're not able to kill this boss super quickly, then make sure you practice it in regular Nightmare some, but it is also important to remember that this boss is not going to allow you to stack up your armor using Siphon Grenades on him while his shield is up. So you can watch the gameplay and see how I dodge the majority of the attacks, but all you have to do is hit him during the counter window and it's not too hard. I know that a lot of people have trouble with that flame attack, but the secret is to just change directions every time he does an attack on you and you'll dodge it pretty much every time. And in this one, remember you could shoot him while he's changing the direction of the flames, so you could just make sure you're paying attention to where the flames are going and not getting hit by it, and it's not too hard. So at this point you'll see that I've killed him, and I'm going to go in for my glory kill on him after stacking up my armor just a little bit, and I'll cut past this animation because it takes forever. So now we're on to the double Hellguard fight, and we actually are saving a BFG shot for this just because we can use it, and what this is going to do is stun them both because it has a good enough splash, and also make them take some more damage from our rotation. Since they no longer have the green shield, you can also use the BFG cheese on them if you want to, but as you can see, I'm doing this fight a little bit more ethically than that. Once again, I'd recommend practicing this fight some if you're not familiar with it. Just run it a few times on regular Nightmare, and if you can kill them 2 or 3 times in a row without dying, you're probably set to do it on Ultra Nightmare. You can see here that I switch over to Vacuum because I'm a little bit worried about running out of my armor, but then I get a really nice BFG shot off that finishes them both off. But unfortunately one of them gets up while I'm doing the animation, but if you wanted to solve that problem yourself if you stun them both at the same time, what you can do is equip Dazed and Confused and it will make the stun animation last quite a bit longer. You could see that letting him get up was actually kind of scary because he hit an attack on me as soon as I got out of the glory kill animation, which made it pretty much undodgeable. Which is just another reason to use Vacuum in this fight, because I don't believe that the ammo drops that they give are able to be BFG ammo with the ammo boost anyway, so you might as well put on Vacuum or Saving Throw if you're worried. But with these guys down, we can move on to Vega Core. So Vega Core is kind of an interesting level, because we do actually have a decently sized skip we can do here to avoid a very large combat room. That being said, it's a lot more optional than the one on Argent Facility Destroyed, because it is just one fight that you can absolutely take. Especially since it is the extreme late game and you have all the tools in your arsenal that you need. But we've got some time before that. For now, we're going to go in through the secret door here, which is not very secret if you ask me. And in this compartment there is a BFG shot alongside the doll in the secret area here, which is very nice because you almost certainly used a BFG shot or two during the boss fight. Once we grab that, we can hop down into this shaft here, and you do want to be careful because there's going to be imps spawning here on triggers based on how low you are in the area here, so as you hop down you'll be spawning in more imps, which is why you see me hopping down really slowly instead of going down all at once. This spot's not too bad, it's just something that you do need to kind of pay attention to a little bit, or else you'll take a bunch of damage from the imps, and this would be a really annoying spot to die in. Once we get into this room, we are actually going to choreograph the fight a little bit because you can split it up into sections. I actually end up messing up the fight here. What you're supposed to do is grab the invincibility right after pulling this lever and spawning in the enemies, but me being the goober I am, I thought I was supposed to take it later, and I ended up basically wasting it. So take the invincibility for this fight, and then you can get right up in the face of everything and just rail them with your 3 super powerful weapons. But you could see the gameplay of me in the background playing it a little bit safer if you want to do that, but I wouldn't recommend it because there's more than enough power-ups in this room to take care of all the fights. So TLDR, take the damn invincibility. Once you get this fight done, then we have the second half of the fight to be done, and this one is actually going to be made really easy with a planned BFG shot. This is one that you absolutely want to use a BFG shot on, as you will actually skip a bunch of spawn triggers if you BFG shot it correctly, but don't worry about it, the window to do it is very big, so you don't need to be scared about it. All you have to do is grab the lever here, and the fight isn't going to spawn until you press another button back at the start of the room, so I'll show you guys going back because there's a BFG shot on the way that you'll want to see, which can be very helpful if you're behind on BFG shots from maybe using a few more than I did on the boss fight. I actually didn't end up showing it, but there's one on the very bottom area of this arena, so make sure you grab it if you need it. Otherwise, all you need to do is press this button and stare down that door, and the moment you see the door open, you want to fire at it. You can see I'm actually very late, and I still am able to hit the trigger skip, so it's a very forgiving window to fire. Just don't try to pre-fire it, make sure you see the door fully open before you shoot the BFG shot. This one's definitely better to be late on than early. From there, we can grab the Berserk power up and actually move on to the next arena using it instead of using it in the last one. You'll also see I was standing on top of a BFG shot, so I didn't have to go ahead and grab one and immediately got it refilled. Basically, I'm just running around these tunnels randomly and killing everything with the Berserk, and I actually end up messing it up and not killing everything with the Berserk, but it is actually super easy to make use of the Berserk a little better than I did. But I'll let you guys see how I handled it, just so that you can see the enemies to expect. So after making our way through the fight, we end up in the cooling room, and this is where that skip takes place. Basically, to do the fight normally, you have to shoot 4 cores, and every time you shoot one, a ton of enemies will spawn. So if you want to do it effectively, what you'll want to do is rush around, take out all 4 of the cores, and then grab the Berserk power up, and kill everything using it. And just use emergency BFG shots whenever you need them, because there are several throughout the arena. But for the purpose of this guide, since I'm trying to show the easiest way through, we are going to be doing a skip here using this grab lift and a Gauss boost. All you have to do is angle yourself the way I am and shoot upwards, and eventually you'll be able to get enough height to land on top of this pipe on the ceiling. Bear in mind, you're not going to be able to mantle onto it because you're not meant to get up here, but once you do get up here, you can basically just wiggle your way over the wall like I was there, and you could sneak past the force field here. Just be careful you're not standing on it for too long, as it does damage you while you're touching it, but it's not a ton of damage, so it's okay. And walking past it, the game just considers you to have finished the fight, and we're able to just move on. If you think that's too cheesy, you can just use the strategies I talked about to take on the fight normally, but at this point you're probably 3 or 4 hours into the run, and just want to do the safest thing possible. Either way you do it, we're not going to get a break for very long as we head down this train, and we're going to go into an absolutely massive fight here as well. You could start off having a siege mode pre-charged and taking out the Caco demons and anything else from far away, and the ideal spot is pretty much just right here in this corner. That said, you do want to be careful as the fight gets very intense and a lot of things will start rushing you at once. Whenever you hear a pinky, you're going to want to fire off a BFG shot, but as always, especially since we're making use of the ammo boost rune, you can also fire BFG shots anytime you feel yourself getting overly swarmed. You can see I'm getting pushed pretty hard, but I am able to maintain my health and armor pretty decently. There's not really too much to say about the fight other than that. You can always bear in mind that most of the time the Pinkies and the Cyber Mancubuses are going to be the trigger demons to start the rest of the fight, or should I say to trigger the next wave of demons to spawn in. That's just a common occurrence throughout Doom 2016. You'll see whenever I start panicking, I'll fire off a BFG shot, and it takes care of everything in my way. Now, one thing you may not have noticed is that I actually didn't fix my runes after I went and used different runes while using the Berserk in the previous areas, so I actually don't have my equipment powered mastered, which is why I'm getting really crappy life drain on the siphon grenades. I realized this later into the fight, but this ended up being way more dangerous for me than it needed to be, just because I forgot to switch my runes back to the right ones. But this is just to show that even with mistakes, you can absolutely survive through Ultra Nightmare. The most important thing is to not let the nerds get to you, and try to remain calm whenever you're in panic situations. Remember, if you are starting to panic, instead of just running around and pressing buttons, try pausing the game and thinking about the situation you're in, and then making a decision on what to do with it. Anyway, for the rest of the fight, it's pretty much just me kiting these last 2 Pinkies, and these are the only enemies left in the fight anyways, so I'm going to go ahead and just fast forward ahead to when we're done with this fight. And this was actually the last fight of the level. At this point, all you have to do is go and interact with some MacGuffins at the top of the elevator, and that's going to be this level, and you'll be ready to move on to the next level. I don't need to show you guys how to do that, because it's just walking on a flat piece of ground and pressing a button. So I'll see you guys in the next level. So here we are on the final level, and honestly, I think it's a little bit anticlimactic, as this is actually one of the easiest levels in the game at this point, considering the upgrades we have, and the amount of BFG ammo that it feeds you. So heading this way towards the first fight, this is one that has a very easy camping spot of just sitting right back here. I push up and be a little bit more aggressive than this. All you have to do is walk up to start the fight, and then from there you can run back to this area I'm in now and do the entire fight from back here very safely. So you see me coming up, killing anything that I can on the way, and then once I see the enemies starting to spawn, I back off and go back towards the spot. And you can see I'm still pretty far up, but you can be even farther back just to be as safe as possible if you want to, but I'm confident that I'm not going to get killed at this point because we are so overpowered. There isn't really a whole lot more to say about this since it's just another late game fight, although I will note that this fight should be pretty easy to do even without a BFG shot, so this is probably a good time to restack on them if you left Vega Core missing a few. That said, as always, if something goes wrong and you need it, don't be afraid to fire your BFG off. There's a reason I keep hammering that point home, and you're going to hear a recurring theme in Doom Eternal whenever I do that one. Something about Flame Belch. Anyway, I'm going to let the rest of the fight play out. It is a bit of a long one, but there isn't really a whole lot to it since we're just sitting in this spot the whole time. So that's the fight done for me, and you may have noticed that there is a Berserk power-up, which you can use for the fight if you want to, but I found it easier to just make use of our overpowered weapons and just use the Berserk as a nice speed boost moving through the next transition part. Bear in mind there is a secret deck we're going to be taking because it has BFG ammo in it, so if you need BFG ammo you can absolutely use it, but if you're already full then there's no need to grab this. But I'll show it to you guys just so that you're able to access it. But you may notice that I've been saying that a lot, and that's because I've been using the BFG a lot less than I could be. Either way, we're ready to move on, and you can do a skip here, but you could see what happened to this guy when he tried it. It's up to you if you want to, you could just Gauss boost across the gap and land down there. But I decided to just take the intended way for safety, because this one is kind of a scary Gauss jump because you can hit your head on a ceiling. Just bear in mind that when you're going the intended route, there are going to be some cacos, and you would be skipping them by doing this Gauss boost. But if you are going to do it, make sure you've practiced it in normal mode before doing it in Ultra Nightmare, of course. So I'll just show you guys the route around this just so that you don't die because it can be a little bit scary. So now we're on to the first objective area that has a giant fight in this mission. There are 3 of them total. Basically, we go and press E on some buttons. But before that, we get a big arena fight with several power-ups generally. In these fights, you are very free to use several BFG shots, because there is a ton of BFG littered around this mission, and also with the number of enemies in it, you can even get ammo back from the ammo boost pretty frequently. You'll see right away I like to take the quad damage, but that might have been a mistake. It's probably better to take it a little bit later. This is pretty much the only arena in the entire mission that doesn't have a very safe spot to it, but you could still hang out in this area that's far from the entrance, and it's a relatively safe spot, although there are a lot of ways for the demons to approach you, so you'll want to make sure you have your head on a swivel while you're doing this spot. In the later arenas, they're even easier than this one. So you can see we're going to get a ton of heavies spawning in, and the quad damage is cooking everything for me, but honestly it would have been smarter for me to wait for the music to uptick before taking the quad damage. You can see I go for a BFG shot here even though I didn't really need it, so once again if you want to be a little bit more optimal, you can use that later in the fight. There's a wave of enemies in this fight that actually is just a spam of mancubuses, so if you are afraid of mancubuses then that might be a good time to use the BFG, but you can also just hold on to it if you don't end up in a situation where you need it. Anyway, I'm going to let the fight play out at this point just so that you guys can see all the demons to expect, and then we'll be ready to move on from there. So that's the fight, and you saw one of the demons actually dropped me a BFG shot, so I'm going to go and grab that, and we'll be able to get another BFG shot after leaving this arena in one of these secret buttons, which I'll be showing you guys soon. But for now, we're going to make our way towards the objective, so I'm going to cut to after we've done that. After you hit the objective, you'll want to turn right and hop on down to this button, and then we're going to actually take an alternate path that opened up instead of the one that's marked by the diamond. Pretty much you just hop out and then turn right after the doorway, and you go through this little cave instead of that big skull up there. From there, you could just progress through here, and you'll run into a BFG that is practically in your way. So yeah, now we can move on to the next arena fight, and they're all very close to each other and tightly packed, but fortunately this one actually has a safe spot, or a relative safe spot like we've been using throughout the video. Like I said, as always, there's not any true god spots in this game for the most part, but there are some pretty decent camping spots for a lot of the harder fights. Pretty much once again, we're just going to be going all the way to the opposite side of the arena from the entrance. The only thing you really need to worry about is that Pinky, but you can just hit him with a stun gun and then do whatever you want to damage him. You can also take him out with a rocket that you shoot over his head and blow up behind him. You have a bunch of options. It's worth noting that there's a berserk in this arena, but I decided to take it a little bit later into the fight, whenever we have some more heavies to make use of it on. You don't really need to use any serious ordnance until you hear the music pick up, as the fight's going to remain relatively calm until then, basically just trickling in some easier zombies like Hell Knights and fodder demons. So, just like the last one, there isn't really a whole lot to say about it. I'm just going to let it play out. You guys can see when I use my BFG shots here, and you can use this to see what kind of demons are going to be spawning throughout the fight. So now we finished off that fight, and you can see I kind of wasted the BFG because I had already pretty heavily damaged the Baron, and there was only a Cyber Mancubus left after that. But it doesn't really matter because of all the BFG ammo on the map, and also the ammo boost rune as well. So I'm going to cut to after I press this button, and we'll be ready to move on to the next place, and I'll also make sure to show you guys the third secret with BFG ammo. So unlike last time, we are actually going to head through the Skull Cave this time, and the button is actually on the route through there, so I'll show you guys the way there. And this one is worth grabbing even if you have full BFG ammo, because you also get a super boost which will give you 200 armor, which is obviously super nice as a safety blanket. So I'll show you guys running towards the secret, and then once we grab that, we're just going to go the intended way towards the next fight. So I'll cut to that once I show you guys the route to the secret. Here it is, and we'll move on to the next arena. So this fight is basically identical to the others, and once again there is a relatively safe spot towards the end of the arena, just on a box in the back. So pick off everything you can on the way, and then you need to run up next to the door to actually trigger the fight to start. And once you do that, I'm just going to rush my way all the way back here, where I will be sitting for pretty much the remainder of the fight. Almost nothing spawns back here, so you're able to pick off everything from super far away, and you even have this grav lift to get away from enemies if you need it. I end up saving the quad damage a little bit as there is a double or triple Baron fight towards the end, and the beginning is pretty easy as the music hasn't even kicked off yet. The music kicking off is a decent indicator that the real fight has begun and you're going to start seeing more heavies. Anyway, once again, I'll just show you guys how I did the fight when I do my BFGs, and you can use that information to make your plan for taking on the fight. So now we're done with this fight, and we're immediately going to be able to move on to the boss fight after we press this button. So grab all the things you need, make sure your runes are set up properly, and I'm going to cut to the boss fight. So one thing I wanted to show here is that I actually decided to just put on saving throw instead of ammo boost, since we're no longer getting value out of ammo boost during this fight, as the ammo dropped from bosses can't be BFG ammo. So I have saving throw on just as a backup plan since I still have my saving throw, but if you already used it up or you're just feeling super confident, you can forego it and put on something like vacuum instead. Either way, this fight is a pretty easy one. Just bear in mind that if you're not able to do a lot of DPS, you should probably spend some more time getting familiar with the attacks, but as with all the other ones, this boss can just be melted before it really poses any sort of threat, and honestly, I think the safest way to take it on is just to absolutely cook her shit. There's 2 BFG ammos in this arena, and you should be coming in here with 2 or 3 shots yourself. And remember, every BFG shot will immediately stagger her and make her take more damage from your regular weapons. And you also have the option of using the weapon wheel cheese if you really want to be extra cheesy. I'm going to be showing you guys just using the BFG regularly and not using the weapon wheel, but if you're not able to do damage rotations like I am, then you might need to learn the attacks a little bit better. Either way, I'm just going to let the fight play out for you guys. This is the last part of the mission. Good luck! Also, now that I've already killed her, I thought I'd just style a little bit and show off the BFG trick using the weapon wheel. Basically, the BFG does full damage the entire time, it's just sitting there zapping her while you're in slow motion. So yeah, pretty broken thing, and that will insta-kill her on its own. Anyway, at this point, I've taken down the boss, and I just cleared Ultra Nightmare. And I hope that you guys were all able to do the same. I know I kind of skimmed over all the boss fights, but that really is just because they are very easy once you practice them even 1 or 2 times. I found them all to be significantly easier than Gladiator from Doom Eternal, and even that one was kind of in the same boat, where if you practice it once or twice, it wasn't too bad either. Anyway, if you did make it all the way into the video, I would really appreciate if you guys liked, subscribed, and commented your thoughts down below. I'm trying to transfer into doing more variety gaming content than just focusing on Destiny like I have been. And since I've been super into Doom and getting into the speedrunning and challenge running of the game, I thought that this would be a great video to make before Doom the Dark Ages comes out for all those people trying to get their Ultra Nightmares done in the last minute. Anyway, that's pretty much all I've got for you guys, so thank you all for tuning in, and I hope to see you all later.